Our very first guest is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt from California, now living in Singapore. He grew up facing many challenges and was kind enough to share them with us in a very candid and super enjoyable chat. This is episode number 1. There's something about Robyn Goudy.
Robyn Goudy, welcome to the podcast. Straight from the mat.
Yes, quite literally, yes, thank you.
You've been teaching all day?
Pretty much, 3 o'clock.
How many classes?
Today, 3.
Starting at when?
Kids is at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And they well behaved today?
A little bit, yeah, as they always are. A little bit, we do Ninja Fridays.
Ninja Fridays?
Ninja Fridays,
so you
yes.
can't see nothing?
It's pretty much the exact same class, I just turn the lights off.
Yeah, right.
And the kids love it.
Very good.
It's fun.
And Robyn, so Robyn's from California. And we chat a bit, and we've been chatting before, so maybe we should have had the cameras rolling before.
Maybe, yeah.
But, yeah, you're from Palm Springs. I know Palm Springs is where old people go to retire.
Yes.
Is that it?
For the most part, yeah. I think my town, Palm Springs, hometown. I think more that I travel here, like come to Asia, and they're like, "Where are you from?" From California. Like, oh, everybody pictures San Diego, LA, the beach, and I'm like 2 hours inland. I'm like basically Palm Springs is all like golf courses, and it's only live between November till about March, April. Everybody disappears. Mm-hmm. It's like a snowbird town. They call it snowbirds. So there's a lot of money there. A lot of people there are people that live there, obviously 365 days a year, but for the most part, it's rich people that have like their vacation home there. And so it's golf courses, and then it starts getting too hot. It's like Abu Dhabi. If you know Abu Dhabi, obviously it's like dry heat.
So it's proper desert.
Desert. Oh yeah, it's desert.
Uh-huh.
Oh
and
yeah.
It's when you say snow town, there's no snow.
No, there's no snow at all. They call it snowbirds. I think the term snowbird means like they live in like the nice area, like say like New York or like one of these kind of areas, and then it snows. So they leave for the winter. And they come so basically, like people were to travel where the weather's always nice. So they live somewhere until it gets like Chicago, right? It gets too cold, leave Chicago, go to the desert. It gets too hot, go back because by the time it gets hot here, it's normal there. Something like this.
This is exactly what I want to be.
Yeah.
My ambition in life is to do nothing and go
right as I was leaving California to move here, like Canadians were just buying up houses. Like, yeah, so people, I guess, cold in Canada, I guess. It's north of here, so it's cold.
It is.
So, but yeah.
And like up there in Palm Springs, like what does it even look like? Like is it like cactuses and stuff? Like
of course.
Well,
so like not a lot. I guess a lot of people don't know this. I say Palm Springs. I lived in Palm Springs since I was like, I'd say like maybe 22, 23. Mm-hmm. But I literally grew up in a place called 29 Palms, which is up the mountain. So how do I say this? It's like a region, right? When you get to Palm Springs is just a fraction of a city. Very similar, like here in Singapore, you have like Tiong Bahru, Clarke, that's as far as I know. the Jurong, right? Like Palm Springs is literally just the west end of the valley, which is the Coachella Valley.
Okay.
So it's literally a valley. So if you come at it from the beach, like you take the 10 freeway, like everybody knows the 10 freeway, you literally like there's a wide open ravine. It's like there's mountains on both sides, but you're not going up through the mountains to get to Palm Springs. But there's definitely like a ridge, and you go down into the valley. And when you're in the valley, 360-degree view, there's mountains around you. You're in a bowl.
Yeah, right.
That's the valley. You know what I mean? And so I grew up, if you go up one of those mountains to the north in a place called 29 Palms, it's mentioned in a few movies because it's the largest naval base in the world, land-wise. And so 29 Palms is literally built, it's a military town. The town itself has a population of like 70,000, but the military base is the largest, where like everyone that preps for like Afghanistan and stuff like that goes there.
Right.
So I grew up there. And then when I got to be like 20, I got a good job, which takes me to the city of Palm Springs. And then Palm Springs has like a bunch of towns, like we talked about Tiong Bahru and stuff like that. So basically you start at the west end, you go like Palm Springs, you go into Cathedral City, Palm Desert, Thousand Palms. Eventually you get all the way to actual Coachella. Coachella is a town itself. Like Tiong Bahru is like, I'd say, a town, you know. but the whole place is Coachella Valley. So that's where I'm from. You know, the long story short, but yeah, like it's hot as shit. It's dry. it's. I mean, when people run away, as we talk about snowbirds in the summer, like when it starts getting like April, May, June-ish, for sure June they're gone. We're looking at Fahrenheit. It's like 120.
What's that in Celsius though? That's like
I want to 46, 47.
Oh, serious?
Oh, it gets hot. Yeah, it's hot. I want to say
46, 46.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like when I was in Abu Dhabi, like it was still like it was like 42, 43 on a daily
so
basis.
You're fine.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
It'll be cold
because it's a dry heat.
Yeah, here it's mental.
Well, as for example,
so humid.
I would go down to like San Diego, and oddly enough, I always wore shorts. I didn't wear pants very often. It was just like because you're in California, but say it gets down to like 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is I don't know 25, 20, 22 maybe, something like this. I'd wear a hoodie. I look fucking weird because I'm from like. Because it's like, everyone's like, this is wonderful weather. And to me, it's starting to get cold. You know what I mean? I'm like, I need to put a jacket on.
Man from the desert is in town.
Exactly. So when I moved here, I was like, oh, this is great. And then the wave of humidity hits you. You're like, this sucks.
Humidity is so intense. Like I was telling you just before I came here, I had Botox. Which, like, I saw your eyebrows, like...
Dude, I'm so interested about this.
Runs up, like, okay, tell more, because... It's not the Botox thing, like, because I used to sweat so much, like I still do, like I'm disgusting, like so like jiu-jitsu, where I used to train in Sydney at one point, we do Thai boxing, and then we do a jiu-jitsu and another jiu-jitsu 3 classes in a row, and I'd weigh myself before and I'd weigh myself after. I'd lose 3 kilos.
Oh yeah,
just
easy.
Sweat, just water, which is probably pretty normal if you're doing that much, but. I knew I sweat so much, it was disgusting, but before I came here it was winter in Sydney and I was wearing a leather jacket and I could see the sweat stains from my armpits in a leather jacket, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I've got to do something about this. Like, I wonder if there's something they can do. And I had to go to... I was going to like a skin place, like because I had a little lump or something. So it was a skin cancer sort of place, and it was nothing, right? Like, and while I was there, the dude was checking it out. He's like, oh yeah, no, this is fine, nothing to worry about, you know. But it's good. Let's check you for moles while we're here. You do that a lot in Australia because there's a lot of skin cancer, a hole in the ozone layer. And I was like, man, like I sweat a lot. Like I've heard you can get Botox injections in your armpits and it helps stop sweating. And he's like, yeah, you can. He goes, I can put it through on Medicare, which is the government subsidized health system. I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, just book an appointment, come back and we'll do it. And he was kind of like really into it. I was like, oh, all right. Because I told him I was going to Singapore, and he said, like, you know, if you can see it through a leather jacket, that's a medical condition. like you qualify. So then like I booked in, went back, and so I lied down, and he sort of draws like a grid pattern on my armpit, and then he opens his phone and he's looking at a YouTube. I was like, oh, like, have you done this before? And he's like, no, this is the first time I've done it. And I was like, oh, okay. He goes, yeah, that's why I'm really into do it. That's why I really want to do it. And so he put all these little injections in me, and it stopped me sweating in my armpit.
For how long? You need like a
he said it'll last 12 months to 2 years depending on the person, and I don't know if I've slowly worn off, but I don't know, I feel like I still don't sweat as much. It doesn't smell as much either.
But isn't like Botox, like girls like Botox their lips and stuff like that, it plumps up their skin.
Yeah.
So you have like fattier armpits? Like what do you think?
Maybe.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Like I don't know how it just, because it's a little bit of poison or something, and I don't know how it works or whatever, but he put it in me, and it helped. And yeah. And
I sweat like I haven't got used to it. The humidity here is crazy. I haven't got used to it.
It's mental.
Yeah, but yeah, the same thing. Like I'll teach and I'll train. Like it's crazy. Like on Saturdays when I teach like 6 hours or 6 classes, I'll weigh myself when I wake up. Like same thing. Like, and I'm not even really training. I'm just like teaching like 3 hours of kids, 3 hours of adults, and I go home, right? And I might have a partner here or there, or just demoing the moves, and I'll sweat 3 kilos out just not even doing shit.
Really?
It's like 6 hours. Oh yeah. I mean, I changed my gi after teaching.
You go to the bathroom as well? Are you counting that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm like, certain amount of liquid goes out, you know what I mean? And the scale tells me how much I'm missing by the end of the day.
Yeah, right.
It's insane. But yeah, I never thought about Botox.
Yeah. I asked him if he had a little bit extra for somewhere else, and he said, no. It's all got to go in the pits.
Wow. I've never heard of that.
But he did I think he did 30 little mini injections.
And you did this today?
No. Well, before I came to Singapore.
Well, when you mentioned it, I thought you because you said I had Botox. I thought you meant
no,
this
before
afternoon.
I came because it was so I was sweating so much, and I knew I was coming to such a humid place.
Wow,
yeah.
I never heard of that.
Yeah. And this is Singapore. Is not only the first other country that you've lived in, but the first country you've been to outside the States, huh?
Yeah, completely. So so when I don't know, when I was 30, it's 8 years ago. I was on my first plane ever. So the first time I ever got on an airplane was coming to Singapore to be a guest instructor. So no, not when I was 30. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about something else. I went to Chicago once when I was 30. That was the first time I ever been on an airplane, ever. Uh-huh. So I went on a business trip to Chicago for a security convention, and then I went back. And that was the first time I was ever on an airplane. Second time ever on an airplane was coming out here in 2016 to be a guest teacher at the gym. And then went home. And they offered me the job, and so I sold everything and moved out here a year later. So third time ever on an airplane coming to Singapore.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's very odd because here people, they fly off on Friday, come back on Saturday, or Sunday for the holiday in Thailand or whatever. It's normal here. And so I go from never being on an airplane practically ever to second trip, 16-hour flight to Singapore. Then on my way back, and now I live here, and I've been to 7 or 8 different countries now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So where you been since then? Abu Dhabi?
Well, I'm lucky. Yeah, I've been to Abu Dhabi twice. Abu Dhabi specifically, I flew into Dubai. So the first time I went straight to Abu Dhabi, and then the second time when I went to Abu Dhabi, I flew in through Dubai and we took a car over, which was a cool experience as well to kind of add to it. But Japan twice, Thailand twice, Philippines. I went to Manila. Been to Melbourne twice. I think that's it. Because you probably know, I'm the competition team coach for the gym. So when X amount of people compete, like you did, we got to go to Japan that one time. You were there with Hurricane, weren't you?
Yes.
And I was dog sick, remember? You remember me being sick and spending most of my time in the hotel room? Remember, I didn't get a chance to go out much.
I didn't see you out that much.
Yeah,
but I just thought you were coaching or being good or I'm on a business trip.
No, I was sick. I landed and I got a wicked head cold and
right.
Yeah, I was kind of laid up for a couple days.
What year was that? It's are you patient zero COVID or
something? Right? Maybe, yeah. This is probably, it might have been September before COVID.
September before COVID?
Yeah.
Is that when we were in Japan?
I want to say it was it was either it wasn't early because my first trip to Japan ever, that was my first trip ever. So I come to Singapore and move here. I moved here in November of 2017. My first trip ever was March, went to Japan. Uh-huh. So 5 months later. And then a whole year passed, a year plus some. I think that's when we went. So maybe 2019, late of the year. I want to say it was September, October-ish.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I remember Hurricane, because he was at the academy and it was cool. I got to roll with him a little bit. But he was staying at yours and you obviously stay, strangely enough, on the same level as myself and down the hallway. And when you're getting ready for comp, you've got to be careful with what you're eating and get your weight down. And he was cutting weight hard, and my weight was cool. And I think it's Friday probably or Thursday or whatever, and you're flying out the next day. And I'd just been down the road and I got in the lift and I had a pizza. and he sort of gets in the lift and he's like looking at me. He's like, "Hey man," he goes, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean? I'm having dinner. He's like, "Yeah, but the comp." I was like, "My weight's fine." And he was like dribbling.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, we went to our one of our friends took us over to a place called G Spa. I think it's called. It's over like on the G Spa.
Okay, spa.
Yeah, it's
Got
like
you.
it's like an onsen in Bugis, not
Uh-huh.
Bugis. Like at the border of Geelong over there, and it's like this. It's amazing. I've never seen one of these things. It was so cool. It's like I never went to an onsen in Japan either, but like onsen in Japan, like you go to this place, you pay $100, whatever it is. They give you a towel and a locker key, and you turn in all your clothes, and it's like this giant 40-person jacuzzi. And
But
then
you're bollock naked, right?
no, they give you like these weird I call them Thai pants. Like when I was in Thailand, they give us like they're
Fisherman pants, they call them.
yeah, they're fishermen, but they're super super thin, and they're like swim trunks. Where you wear these, and they have like elastic at the bottoms, and they go to like halfway down your calf.
Okay.
They're like that way they don't like they grip. Because if you wear shorts, the air bubbles go into your pants, and sometimes like it gets weird, right? These are similar, but anyway, they give us these pants to wear. But it's like this: the ceilings are very low. It's like a spa, and you're in this giant jacuzzi. And so we were like they were cutting weight. I was hanging out, but they had like a dunk pool here. So and it had like a proper sauna and things like this. But this is one of the things we went to cut weight. But it was funny because on another subject, when you were starting that story, I thought it was funny because I do remember when Hurricane was here, and it was like maybe his first couple weeks here because he was here for a month, and obviously he's cutting weight, but he's trying to enjoy his trip to Singapore, and we went partying one night. We were fucking, excuse my language, we were wasted, and I remember talking about you, and as we walked by your door at 2:00 in the morning, I was like, "Hey, Liz, right here," and knock on your door as we walk by. I'm thinking, I'm drunk, and you opened the door like you were awake. I felt so, as intoxicated as I was, I felt bad because I'm like, oh shit, I didn't mean to disturb you, man. But,
No, I could hear like all the rabble and then the knocking, and I was like, they probably think I'm asleep, so I'll open it.
yeah. Well, because it's funny, he catches you with a pizza, but then you catch him wasted drunk. It's like we're both cutting weight. What's going on here? You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, different type of calories.
It's completely. Yeah.
I remember in Sydney, we had to help this dude cut weight, and it was like out of control the amount he was losing. I can't remember the amount he was losing, but Palophilia, the pit bull, right? The Pride champion, and he was fighting in Australia towards the end of the career, and he was like the dude I was training with. He was his friend. He was a Brazilian guy called Thiago, and he was training at the academy, and he was getting ready for a fight. But he had to lose like I think it was well over 8 kilos or something extreme, right?
In how much time? Like that day or that week?
I can't remember, but it was.
Because that wasn't too odd to be about 10 pounds over, which is about 4.5 kilos.
I want to say
5
this was
kilos.
a couple of days.
Eesh, that's
The
rough.
preparation maybe wasn't what it should have been
Right.
towards the end of his career, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, even a healthy weight cut the week of is usually upwards of like 12 pounds, 5-ish kilos, 6 kilo maybe.
Well, I wasn't part of it, but he was. I was told Thiago was helping him that he was drinking distilled water.
That's so bad.
Right. This was not a scientific weight cut.
Oh God. Oh yeah.
Right?
Completely. I know
And
exactly.
it
That's
was
stuff.
they were doing sauna, shower, and I don't know the duration. I think it was like as he was sort of losing more and more weight, the trips got more regular, right? Less time in the sauna and in and out. But he ended up so weak that he had him on a plastic chair and he was just dragging him in and out.
Yeah.
And then he went to the weigh-in. So there's like press and stuff there and cameras and media. And I probably got it completely wrong, but he might have been fighting Dennis Siver, I think. And he weighed and he was over. And he was like, like a couple of 200 grams or something like that. And Pal's kind of like, oh, like, come on, man. And Dennis Siver's like, no, you lose that weight. Like, no. And so he's like, oh, fuck, like this, and storms out, and he's got a little bit of time, right? And the fight is at the entertainment centre, which is near Chinatown. So they went out found like some sort of probably semi-dodgy sauna in Chinatown, and he sort of lost the weight, lost the last bit, came back in, and he was super angry, right? Like everyone's waiting, and the door's kind of like bang, and he walks in, and he's like staring at Siva, and he just like, he takes his towel off, right? Nothing on underneath, because he's like counting every gram, and Dennis Siva's like, oh man, like this, and he just keeps like staring at him like naked. He made the weight, and then he I think it was a draw, and he didn't perform, right? Like his body was
weight cuts are wicked. I mean, it's funny. I remember I did that. One of my fighters got really mad at me. So like I didn't manage fighters per se, but like my academy, I had several guys, and as the teacher, I would go like, I'd help them prep, obviously like that, do all that kind of stuff like that. So this is back, like you hear about this stuff all the time nowadays, but like all these Indian. American Indian, Native American. You say Indian here can be different, right? So Native American, but they call
reservations, right?
All the reservation fights. Like I was in all those. I was like, Diego Sanchez, like these UFC fighters. Like they were fighting at like Saboba. Is a place called Saboba Casino. Like it was like one of these Indian reservations, stuff like that. Anderson Silva fought at one of these events. You know what I mean?
Before you were allowed to fight MMA in the States or in California.
In California, yeah.
Right.
So it happened all these Indian reservations. I mean, like my teacher's van got broken into and his laptop stolen because we went after the fight. We went down the road to like IHOP to get some food at 2:00 in the morning, because these are fight cards that would have 30 fights, have 28 fights. You know, you're there for 6 hours. You know what I mean? And and it got a little more like one of my good friends was running a thing called Total Combat, and Total Combat was out of like San Diego, LA, and Arizona. So me and one of my guys went to Arizona one time, and we were able to go to the venue in the afternoon because you have like X amount of hours to make weight. And it was like 2 hours or 3 hours to make weight. And so we go to the venue at like 4:00 to the day before, obviously, to check the scale. Like, we did the whole drive, and this is back when you're like spitting. So what we would do is like you go buy like sour bubble gum or something like that, and you spit. So like even if you these are things nobody thinks about. To lose weight. So you and I are talking right now, and if you don't act, you might think about it for the next half hour or so, or discussing things, but your saliva builds up in your mouth and you swallow it.
Right.
So like we would chew sour bubble gum, and we would have a plastic bottle, and while we're driving, we'd spit it. So every ounce of saliva, the water's not the saliva fluid's not even going back into your body, right? So he's spitting the whole way to Arizona, just to kind of lose a couple hundred grams.
You should have put it in a bag and weighed, like, and then you understand. Okay, like.
Well, we filled a like a 200 ml little bottle of water.
That's 200 grams.
Yeah, exactly. We like 3/4 filled this thing. You know what I mean? So 150 grams, like that you don't have to sweat out. But so long story short, we get there, and he strips down a little bit. He's in street clothes. It's not like an official weigh-in. You can test the scale before you get on, because once you get on, you have to be on. And he's over. So we go back to the hotel, and he's like, all right, I got a couple hours to cut this weight, start doing some calisthenics, blah, 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 throw the clothes on, and use that was the thing, like, you always bring your own scale. So we dropped the scale, and ours looks good. We calibrated before we left, but who knows what happens. This is like the heyday, right? This is back in like 2000. Dude, this is like 2003? I mean, this is like...
Back in the day.
Yeah, ghetto. And so we go to the venue, and he doesn't make weight. And the organizer goes, you got 45 minutes. If you can make weight before 7 o'clock, you're good.
How much?
I want to say it was like 2.2 pounds. So you're looking at a full kilo.
Right.
Ish. In 45 minutes. Not bad. But again, this is coming from a guy who's already been cutting, and it's like, that's a kilo in 45 minutes. So anyway, I came up with this hot idea to make a makeshift steam room. Mm-hmm. So what I did was we went back to the hotel, and we had a dual sink. So I turned the water on hot. Mm-hmm. In the shower, I closed the curtain, and I turned that on hot. And, like it starts steaming it up. And I closed the door, and I put him inside, and he's got his sweatsuit on, and he's doing calisthenics on the floor inside the makeshift steam room. And so he goes in there for 7 minutes or so doing his calisthenics. I let him out, and he's dead. He's taking off his clothes. Like, dude, he's wringing it out, and I'm like, I can't. I was like, he's probably not enough, dude. And he's just, his pores are just drenched. I was like, I don't think that's enough, man. And I still remember he goes back in there for a second round of like 5 minutes, and like at like the 2 minute mark, he's like, let me out. And I remember I won't let him out. I'm holding the doorknob and I won't let him out. And he literally is like, F that. If I don't make weight, I don't care. Because they cut your purse. They would take 30% of your purse right off the top. And if you drove all the way to Arizona for like $800 and they're taking 30% off the top, you're like, what the hell, you know? And so anyway, so I wouldn't. I'm pushing him. We're basically almost fighting ourselves just to make this weight. And anyway, he said he finally taps. He's like, I give up, man. If I don't make weight, I'm just gonna beat this guy's ass. Like blah blah blah. We go back to the venue and he's like a pound under.
Yeah, right. And you're holding him in there.
The moment he made weight, he looks at me like
I can imagine. You can just like look it up.
But that was back in the day of like, you know, the Indian reservations, you know, no one really knows what's going on, your medical checks. I remember one time we were at Saboba Casino, and so it was funny. They would have the main event at like whatever, like say there's 30 fights. The main event was like fight 25. So there's still four or five more fights going to happen after. It's like these are like the nobodies, you know what I mean? This is the third string. So anyway, one fighter pulled out. They literally yelled out into the crowd, free shorts and gloves for whoever wants to fight. And one of my fighters' little brothers gets in there. This guy's like, he's done 4 classes of jiu-jitsu, doesn't know anything, and he just completely gets mauled by this guy and loses in 45 seconds.
But he got free shorts and gloves.
Yeah, free shorts and gloves, yeah.
That's a result.
Yeah, and that was the medical checks and safety that we have at these events. They're completely like professional.
There's a guy, I told you the story before, a guy I knew in the UK, Jason Tan. I met him in Brazil, and I was a blue belt, he was a blue belt. This is in 2004. We were going to do the Mundials, and I met him there, and it was at like the big Gracie Barra Academy at Fit Express. And we just sort of like got on sort of and chatted and didn't know each other before. He was like super good blue belt, like really good, and you know, like he'd talk or whatever, or who gave you your belt or whatever. He'd been teaching himself in a garage with his mate, and he went down into London. He's from Liverpool, like where Darren Till's from. He went down to London, and there was a Brazilian guy there, Roger Brookin, who was in the UK for a while and did a seminar, and he was like, oh, you know, who's teaching you? Because he could obviously see like, oh, he's wearing the white belt, but he's a bit good. He's like, oh, I've been teaching myself in my garage. He's like, well, you need to put this on, and he gave him the blue belt. But then that guy, he went back to the UK, and he was eating at McDonald's, and he got a call, and it was cage rage, and someone was like didn't make weight, and he was fighting, you know, that night, and he took the fight, and he won as well. But
wow,
yeah.
Well, I remember there was I think Sherdog's still up. I'm pretty sure it still is. But I remember back in those days, it was very unregulated. I don't know how it is now, if there's like some kind of verification system. But there's a couple guys from my hometown that would like, they call them smoker. They're like smoker fights.
Yeah.
And
like tomato cans.
What's
Is that the same thing?
I don't know. What's a tomato can?
I think you always hear that in Pride. He got a tomato can. I think it's like after a few hits and they just open up and red stuff comes out.
Smoker was a term that what they would use is like, it's almost like a brainwashed to be good. Like say if you're a smoker and I'm an event organizer. Like
I think I'm wicked, but I'm a bit shit.
Paul, dude, you can take this guy and you lose. and then someone else pulls out, but I'll call Paul. Hey Paul, you been training? Oh yeah, man, I got this guy.
I'm good.
I got this fight. I got this fight. I mean, these guys would be like 2 wins and 7 losses. They just can't figure it out. You know what I mean? And every loss, like, go back to the drawing board. But the thing is, like, you never let your record grow to like 7 losses. So we had some friends, acquaintances that would they would be like it'd be John Doe, you know, and then like he'd lose a fight, he's 0-1, and now it's John the Thing Doe, you know what I mean? And his Sherdog account would completely be a new person, and he's just waiting to start that undefeated streak, you know. And it never happened. These guys have like four profiles. If you add them all together, they've won 3 fights and they've lost 12, you know. But they're called smokers because it's like you're getting fed people, you're getting fed nobodies, you know what I mean? And these guys are all like lobies and stuff like that. They don't know it, or they're just garage wannabes type of thing. It's quite common, you know.
It sucks though, man. Like they've been taking damage. getting beat down hard, like time after time after time.
Yeah, I mean, well, the studies are coming out nowadays with like pro football players and like CTE scans and like all this traumatic brain injury. And it's weird because like they have like everybody's heard of punch drunk. And a story I say sometimes is my professor's passed away now, but he thought he was coming up with a theory. He was a 4th degree black belt when he passed away, and he'd been training for years. Smaller guy, and he's very known for like he let people take his back, and he started coming up with this term called choke drunk. And I never really thought much of it to the time. I just think he's being a crazy old man, and this choke drunk theory of his was this. It was like he would let white belts choke him, but like sink in a rear naked choke and like it's not in. He'd escape. Like, right? Like you do this quite often as well. You kind of give up your back a little bit and see how it goes. Make yourself work out of
That's
bad
what
positions.
I want people to think.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But he told me, he's like, Robyn, I've never been choked unconscious more than I have in like the last 2-3 years. And he's like, I really think this is becoming like a choke drunk.
But he was letting people choke him right out?
No, what I'm doing is like he would let people sink in chokes. He would escape.
And then he'd escape.
And he's done that his whole career.
Yeah.
His theory on choke drunk was like, I think my body is recognizing it's in danger and it's passing me out.
But I heard that like early, that once you get choked out once, it's easier for you to get choked out from there on.
But his theory was like, I mean, obviously like punch drunk, right? He's using the terminology. Punch drunk is like brain damage, from fighting. But his theory was a little bit different, like in the heat of battle. Like punch drunk, comparing his definition of choke drunk to punch drunk was like right before the fist hits you, I'm asleep. You know what I mean? It's like you're about to get choked, so his body's like, let me just shut down now. And that was his theory.
I have heard that, but I don't know why. Like, what would your body be saving yourself from by shutting down, right?
I don't know. It's like, well, when you scare a goat, it falls over dead, right? It's like freezes. Like, I don't know. Maybe your body's just like, save me. I don't know what I mean.
Yeah,
I don't know what it
right.
means, but
That's a different meaning to the goat.
yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Or what is it? Is it a goat or a sheep? What is it you scared?
I think it's sheep because
sheep. My bad.
Because my friend, he used to drive trucks. Like he was mad into trucks, or like articulated, like proper semi-trailers in Australia, what they call them. And like because his dad was a truck driver, and his parents were divorced, and it was a bit sad. Like, I don't know what happened, but he loved his dad. And his dad would pick him up in the truck when he's young, and he'd run out and he'd get in the truck. So as soon as he could get his license, he got his truck license. And like we'd sort of like you'd get drunk, or you sneaking into nightclubs or whatever, and sort of 17. Well, he had his truck driver's license, and I don't want to go home drunk from mum and dad sneaking home, so I'd get beer and just go on the run with him, and we'd like go for like 10-hour run somewhere in Australia. You get out of the state or whatever, and he'd be driving, and I can't remember why we sort of got to this story. Oh yeah, and his another dude at the yard, because once it gets like real rural, you'll get to places where farmers are moving stuff across the cattle or livestock, and they have those big horns, right, in trucks. Well, this one dude had the horn from a train, so it was like really loud, and all the sheep was crossing the road, and he pulled it, and they all just went.
Oh, jeez.
Well, they didn't all die, but they all fell over. So I think it's sheep. I think it's sheep, not goats.
Oh, okay, yeah. My bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, like back in those days, man. I mean, there was no regulation on these fights. Your medical check was, and myself too. I mean, like I've had my jaw broken or dislocated. I've had my orbital bone fractured. That was scary.
So you were doing MMA?
I wasn't doing MMA. I was doing like full contact karate type of thing. It was like
and that happened from karate?
Yeah, so I go to Vegas every year and compete. And I remember one year I went to the Worlds in like 2003, and I got a black eye, right? I just got hit, I got kicked in the head a couple times, but like I've only been knocked out a handful of times, but I remember I got a black eye, and I think I took silver that year, at the Worlds, which is like I'm like I'm go through my bracket, blah blah blah, and I used to work procurement. I worked on the military base. So I would go to Vegas on a Friday afternoon, and I would compete all weekend, and I'd come back, and I had to be at work at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I wake up at like 3 a.m. And so I competed on Saturday, did my thing, we finish up our trip on Sunday, drive home. I wake up Monday morning at 3 a.m. and I'm congested a bit. this scared the shit out of me. I fractured my orbital bone, had no idea. And so I went into the toilet to kind of wake up, and I go to blow my nose, and I guess the pressure went through the crack. And so my black eye had subsided a little bit, right? It's kind of just like going down. I go to blow my nose, and the air of the pressure built up from me blowing my whole cheek filled up, and my skin right here of my cheek blocked my eye. And it was all full of air, like a pocket of air filled up like my cheek right here, and I couldn't. Freaked. 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's like you got beat up this weekend. You know what I mean? You're like, what the hell's wrong with me, dude? And I remember like pushing it back down and trying to like, I gotta go to work. Like I mean, I don't have any medical insurance. I don't have any. Like, this is like we're talking about animals. This is a suck it up moment. This is suck it up. I gotta get to work. You know, how am I gonna drive? You know, and I'm driving onto a military base. It's right after 9/11. It's 2003, 2004. So like you got to go through like. I can't just blow through the gate and like, you know, like this, I have to show ID. Like this is me, you know, I had to go through a security checkpoint just to get into the military base and stuff like that. And here I am all jacked up, and all the guys at the gate knew me. I'm like, at 4 o'clock in the morning, there's not much traffic. You know what I mean? So it's like, but yeah, I remember that scared the shit out of me. Wow. But I started thinking about that myself, to be honest. When we would prepare we'd prepare our students for MMA fights, we would just throw gloves on after class and go at it, grappling wise, striking wise, whatever. When we prepare ourselves for these fights, like one famous guy I kind of connect myself to a little bit when I tell the story is there's a guy named Raymond Daniels. I think he's the current champion for Bellator, I believe, at like 185 pounds. And my buddy fought him. Mm-hmm. Like this he was on the same karate circuit I was on. So like when you watch videos of Raymond Daniels, like he was one weight division above me.
The karate guy, is he also called Raymond Daniels? I've heard of that name.
Well, Sage Northcutt is like one of his best friends. Like Raymond Daniels is marrying or just married Sage Northcutt's sister or something like this. But
the sister that fights.
Yeah, that's Raymond Daniels' wife, I believe. I think it's his wife. But like, yeah, in 2002, 2003, we were on the same karate circuit. Like we go to Vegas all the time. You know, I fought a couple of his, like he was at one weight division, I was at another weight division, but I would fight some of his guys and stuff like that. Like it was, so like he made it, obviously. You know, like I didn't, I'm sitting here. You know what I mean? But but it's like those were the days. You know what I mean? We would just, you know, go to war. You know, getting kicked in the head, and getting knocked out was almost normal. You know.
I first started to like do any training, I think is like 1999, and it was like kickboxing, but it was like above the waist one, whatever that is. But the people that did it, they were good. You know, like they were in movies. There was a movie, The Jackal with Bruce Willis. Like they were stunt coordinators, and they were world champions in whatever. You know, WKA, whatever it was, but they were twins, the Lawson brothers or something. But and I used to have lessons with this guy Stuart, and he was cool and it was fun, and like we'd sort of spar a bit, and you know, he'd obviously teach me stuff. But then after that, then we'd grapple. Like, and I didn't even I heard someone talk about USC or whatever. I didn't know nothing. And I think he went to like one Hoist Gracie seminar or whatever. And so like after it, we'd have boxing gloves on and we'd sort of spar. But then if we'd go on the ground, it'd, you know, keep going. And I mean, the only thing he kind of knew how to do was do a guillotine. And that was just like full body, like cranking it on. And then, but it was like super fun and that. But I never been knocked out. Like I felt funny, but the only 2 times I've been knocked out was in playing soccer. Not from training. Yeah, like the ball like hit me in the head. Yeah, like twice, and I was like knocked out.
Well, for me it was crazy. Like I started when I was 6 years old, and I was doing Japanese Jiu Jitsu and Judo, and I did that for years. And then I took a break during like. High school and stuff, and I came back when I was like 17, 18. I started getting into the karate, and I started getting heavy into it and stuff like that. And then I started getting into jiu-jitsu. And I remember my very first jiu-jitsu lesson ever was like, we would just kind of grapple on the floor, teach ourselves stuff. But like 1999 or 1998, this purple belt from Henzo's came down.
In 98. Purple belt.
Yeah.
In 98.
That's like, yeah. And this cat taught us a heel hook, an outside heel hook from like a guard pull.
That's a good thing to teach people who've never trained before.
Exactly, yeah. It was insane. That was my first lesson. That's what got me into like, more grappling and stuff and that kind of thing. But I came from like a hardcore style, and we fought for every belt. And I remember for my promotion to blue, we had to go out to Master Joe's and do the technical portion of the exam, and then we had to do a fight portion of the exam. And I bring up a friend of mine, Cub Swanson in the UFC. I bring him up quite often. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he was from my academy, and he was a blue belt, and I had to fight him to get my blue belt. And I remember like he threw me on the ground and like blah blah blah. It was like a fight style, but there was like back in those days, there was like a lot of fight to earn your belt at every stage. And I remember the test for purple belt was fight 2 guys. Punching and kicking and all this kind of stuff.
One after another.
No, same time.
Oh, same time.
Same time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you had to fight for X amount of minutes, like that. And I remember like when you're doing the one-on-one stuff, that was like the grand finale, I would say. But the one-on-one stuff, it was like positional sparring. It was I always joke about this. Master Joe would always carry a timer, like a stopwatch, like a track meet, like a stopwatch. Go. It wasn't counting down; it was counting up. And still to today, I have no idea why he ever held that timer. Maybe it was some kind of like chart he was using on his own records on some notebook somewhere. I have no idea, because you'd start in these positions, say mount, and he would give you boxing gloves. Okay, Paul, here's some boxing gloves. Mount Robyn. Okay, Robyn, we're gonna go until you submit Paul. Go. And I had to fight out of mount while you just beat the shit out of my head, and I can escape mount obviously, but we're gonna keep going.
But you got to submit me, not
until
just
I submit you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And so we would do 2 rounds mount, 2 rounds back control. You would take my back. You have boxing gloves on, and he would say again, there's no. This could go like it might take me a minute. It might take me 11. It might take me 4.5. It doesn't. So why the fuck the timer? Why do you have? I don't know why he had this.
Probably
stopwatch.
but he kind of looked scientific and professional back then. That
Either
was like
that
probably
or like
science.
if it took too long, he's like, no, you're not promoted. Like it just took too long. I don't know what it was.
Come back next year.
Well, because we're all like, and I had a striking background. So my late professor, he was telling, I trained under him primarily, and we'd go to Joe for our belt testing, and he's telling me, his boxing gloves going to punch you 100%. 100%? Really? No, it can't be 100%. We're all white belt. 100%? Yeah, 100%. And I remember the
100?
100%. Like, I'm going to punch you. I'm like, what? No way. You can't tell me. No. So me and my buddies, me and my friends, there's like 6 of us that tested for our blue belt that day. And my buddy Ben went first. And he puts this big cat on top of him in mount position, boxing gloves. And Ben's just laying on the ground like... It's not 100%. This guy, mount position, sitting up straight. Joe goes, go. This guy just reels back and just sends Ben's head through the ground. He hit his head so hard, it went like through the mat. You know what I mean? And I remember turning to my buddy, I'm like, oh, this shit's for real. Like, oh my God. And we spent the next, because you would do 2 rounds mount, 2 rounds back, 2 rounds with you inside my closed guard, and then 2 rounds standing. We start standing. So it's 4 positions, all the same thing. You have boxing gloves, and we go until I submit you. And so it's 8 rounds of this specific training and that's just that. And then you finish up. So you do the technical portion, you do that fight portion, the technical sparring, I guess you'd call it, self-defense, and then you go home and you come back that night for night class, and then everybody gets to pull out and just spar you, jiu-jitsu sparring, and beat you up and stuff like that. You kind of run the gauntlet like a fire pit. You kind of go through all the top belts, and I remember I got Cub, and Joe's like, give it to him, like some kind of thing, and I'm like, oh God, yeah.
And then you get the belt, and then everyone
yeah, then you get whipped. Yeah, exactly. It's like when we would mimic it, and back home when my professor started doing his testing, and I started telling the students when I became a coach and a teacher as myself, going through the belts. And I remember telling him, it's like, it's a test, guys. You've already passed the test, that kind of thing, just to kind of make them feel better. You can't really fail unless you tell me to F off and walk out the door, It's like, it's a strenuous exercise, But I I stopped calling it a test. I was like, I say it's a test, but I always added like, don't think of it as a test. It's like a rite of passage. You're getting jumped in. Okay?
Enjoy it.
Just keep, exactly. But it was brutal. And long story short was like, in those days it was like brutal, man. It was brutal. And you see some of these guys, and like I think a good example is like Vanderlei Silva. His pride fights aren't known to be the most technical of fights. It was, my face took the damage more than your face could, and I sometimes think back to those days, like I don't know how I'm gonna be when I'm 55, 60, like I've had a long life of martial arts now, and with Kyokushin karate style and Goju karate style and the judo and the jiu-jitsu, it's like my body's pretty beat up, and I'm only like in my late 30s, and I'm like, man, like I hope I didn't do anything too stupid. But from 1998 to like 2010, those 12 years were very brutal, like
It's different early, like, I don't know, the guys that I was training, the guy that taught us when we were younger, he was like, the first one that I had, he was like super strict. And, you couldn't leave the mat to get a drink of water. He would say you can leave the mat to shit, and if you need to vomit, you do it in the bin, and if you need to piss, you hold it, sort of thing. And you so basically you come to training dehydrated, so you don't have to leave the mat to piss. Yeah. You're not allowed to drink.
Well, I remember my teacher would yell across the mat sometimes, like, throw up, I'll clean it up, don't worry, keep going. Like, he didn't care. Like, you throw up in your gi. Like, it was, it never happened that often. When you, it's basically like calling your bluff. I gotta leave. I'm gonna throw up. Do it. Throw up. Yeah. It's like you're like, oh, you're trying to like.
Yeah, because like when it's like really horrible, and sometimes it's horrible, especially when you're starting off and that, like you make excuses for yourself, right? Yeah. Or you think like, I can't do this, but like they're just showing you that you can. But it's like tough love, but it's also it's different. Like I remember, like there's not that many people training jiu-jitsu. Like I think at the time, in New South Wales, which is a state in Australia, there was only 3 black belts. And I don't know how many in Australia, maybe, and that's the biggest state, right? So there's a couple other elsewhere, maybe 2 in Melbourne, maybe 3, 1 in Perth or whatever. And, like, there's a balance between trying to, like, make good students and fighters and stuff and, like, actually have a business. So, like, this guy turned up, like, and he'd never done jiu-jitsu before, and he turned up late, like, and so like you can see like the dude's teaching the class, and he kind of like looks over at the guy comes in late, and he keeps like teaching the class and doesn't acknowledge him, keeps teaching. Then he sort of like walks over and sets everyone up, and everyone's doing a warm up or technique, and he's like, oh, hello, and the guy's like, oh yeah, I want to do jiu-jitsu. He's like, oh, okay. And he said, have you ever been to the movies? He's like, yeah, I've been to the movies. And he goes, oh, and when you turned up late to the movies, did they stop the movie for you? And the guy's like, oh, no. He goes, what the fuck are you doing here? He goes, like, go away and come back tomorrow. Yeah. And then just send him off, right? Like, and then it's like, it's strange how it's not strange. You can understand how it's changed, but like it's kind of like softer, maybe it's in like a good way or not. I don't know. I would say.
I think in general it is softer, but you got to go both ways. I mean, like in respect. I mean, I do it because some of my best friends recently. I had not really known many Brazilian guys. And moving here, I got to be really good friends now with like Zorro and Thiago. And so because of them, I want to be respectful. You know what I mean? But as an American, and from where I'm from, where I trained, my direct teacher was Mexican, and then Master Joe was Brazilian, obviously, you know what I mean, and him. But in America, we're a little bit, it was a little bit anti-Brazilian for a while. And what I mean by that, it wasn't anti-Brazilian. It was like, we would shit talk, meaning you would just fight. Well, you're not learning much. You know what I mean? What am I learning? You give me a couple tips and we fight for an hour. So it's like you learn to fight, but you're not very technical. And then the Americans went through this process, like myself. And then you start getting a higher belt, and you start being able to break down the techniques and be a little more technical. And it at the time, in like 2008, 9, 10, these guys started teaching better than the Brazilian guys. You know what I mean? They're the professionals, and it's their sport, it's their livelihood, and they're the world champions. But I'm not talking about Zorro and Thiago. Well, Zorro is, but my point is the guys the Brazilians in California, they're all these, Andre Galvao and these guys. They'll start moving their academies there. Cobrinha, Salo, and Shanji. They start building their academies in Southern California, the Gracies, and some of them could teach really great. But a lot of them, you'd drive down the street and train with world champions. They could barely speak English, and it wasn't like there's nothing against that. But my point is, like, I don't know if it was like a language barrier thing at the time, if it was just a fight aspect. Maybe I've never been to Brazil. You have. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that. But the point I'm trying to make is sometimes all you would do is just fight for 2 hours. Like I didn't learn anything. You learn to be tough, but there's not much technique going on, and so you try to like. What I'm getting at is like it in America for a while it was like people were saying that's very Brazilian. It's a very Brazilian style. Like what does that mean? And just what that phrase meant was you don't learn much, but it's good. You're training with guys who are really good, but they can't really teach you much. It was really weird at the time. I don't know if you experienced that. But
The people that taught me that were Brazilian, like they would always teach technique and like I'd learn for sure. I think. I was lucky because they always had good English. Like, for sure, language barrier comes into it, right? Like, imagine me trying to teach a class in Portuguese. It's like, at best, I sound like Borat. Borat's English, right?
Exactly, because you don't know the language.
People can understand what I'm saying, but it's like, I like egg.
Well, I think a lot of it was lost in translation, meaning the Brazilians would come here. Obviously, they speak Portuguese, but the people that are teaching don't.
Yeah.
So I think it became like a thing for some years where they almost wouldn't talk.
But I think, okay, so definitely didn't. I think like America and Brazil is closer, right? So there's probably more Brazilians there.
Well, the Worlds are in Cali and stuff like that. So like these guys are coming there. You know what I mean? They were kind of like maybe not fly back and they just change their life and just stay there in America. You know what I mean? And so like they started going to New York and stuff. I feel like perhaps the people that traveled around the world were probably standout instructors that were kind of getting a chance.
Or maybe they were, I think some people in Australia were like English students, so they already were learning like English and they could explain it.
Yeah, I'm having classes with people that literally could not even say hello to me. They were kind of like, oh, hi.
Yeah.
And
I never had any.
Well, the problem was it was like I think it was that like the fact that they couldn't really talk to you.
Yeah.
So it ended up being like, I'll kind of give you some tips. I can't articulate those tips. We can mime to each other a little bit, but that only goes so far because I'm like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go fight. You know what I mean?
You're not going to have fine detail.
Yeah, and that was interesting because it turned into like it was a fight style. Yeah. So I'm getting at it, like a lot of jiu-jitsu back in those days, depending on where you went, I would say a large majority of it was just a lot of pohada. Like it's just like, and what I'm getting at is like, people like, my cauliflower is pretty predominant. It's like, and people are like, oh yeah, it's like you don't. I tell people like you don't get this because you're good. You get this because you fight. You know what I mean? Like I didn't get this because I'm beating up everybody. I'm getting this because it's like
I got beat up.
I got my ass kicked and I dug myself out of a deep hole.
That's why my ears are quite nice, Robyn. I didn't have to get my ass kicked that much. No.
Put some Botox in your ears, baby.
No, like okay. So I remember when like now that you say it. So when I was like training in London, the academy I was at was pretty famous. And like people would come over to teach, right? And they'd be from Brazil. And there was one guy, I remember his name was Siri, and he trained with I think he trained with Zorro. Like he's from that sort of same academy and age. And like his English was like you could understand it was totally fine, but like it was like he was shy with it. Do you know what I mean? Like he was like shy to use it, and especially like in front of like 30, 40 students or whatever. And then so someone would sort of, the person he was demonstrating on would sort of like, you could hear him, hip or foot and stuff like that. But it was like, he was fine, but he was just too shy or didn't have the confidence to just like articulate it himself. And I remember like you could get better and better and better. And I remember after 2 months, I was like, oh, seriously, like your English is getting good. He's like, really? I don't think it is. It's like, no, it's getting like way better. And then, I think after 3-4 months there, he got to be a better teacher, right? Like, cause he had the ability to articulate it. But then if in Brazil, he's probably an amazing teacher. This is in his native language, right?
Right, exactly. So I think it was like unfortunately, I thought it became like almost like I don't say derogatory, but like it's definitely a negative way of saying it, because it's like for a while, like it was tough to learn a little bit, from certain people, Of course, you go to certain places, it was amazing. The guys spoke good English, so it was great, and they can articulate what they're trying to do. But there's a lot of times I went to classes sometimes, literally couldn't even speak English. I'm like, and literally like you trying to talk to somebody, eventually you're just like, all right, let's just roll. That's what I felt like. It wasn't really like, it's not the fact that they couldn't teach. It's just like they couldn't speak to you. Mm-hmm. And the mimicking and the miming is only going to go so far. So it's like, let's just roll. So it's rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. It's crazy.
But also, I think Brazilians, like when I was there back then, like there was this thing about gringos. And there was gringos, like, so that was like a foreigner, but there was also like, you could tell that there was like a little thing with Americans, that they didn't love Americans, that's for sure. Like I felt like, because I was Australian, and we were there with a Brazilian guy, and a few other Australians had gone before, and there wasn't no issue. But it was a little bit different when Americans were on the mat. Like there was just, I don't know, a distrust or...
I was very shocked coming here because I grew up in California, not only in California, but also a military town. There's all walks of life that come in there. I mean, there are African guys, like from Africa. I was the racist guy in a way. I'm like, I wasn't racist at all, but I would see this guy, like this, like very black person, and he'd walk in, huge guy. I remember him. I forget his name. He's a really cool guy. We used to mess around all the time. Anyway. And I hear his accent, like he's not from America.
Yeah.
But then part of me is like patriotic, like how the hell are you in the military? Like how are you in the U.S. Marine Corps? Let alone he was born in America. So long story short,
like very recent immigration. Like,
exactly, yeah. But what I'm getting at is like my best friend was I mean obviously not him. I'm saying growing up was a full on black guy. Like both his parents are black. I'm white as hell. Both my parents are super white. And then the third guy in our little trio of friends was his dad was black. His mom was white. So it's funny because if we walked down the street, it was like white and black, and the guy in the middle was half black, half white. So it's like he's the mix. Like almost, it's like so there was no racism. But in California though, like I would see this and I would ask certain questions. I'm like super ignorant to like, because to me it's people. You know what I mean? But when I came to Asia, I have that attitude being from where I'm from. There is no color per se. Like I recognize that you're Asian. I recognize that you're black. I recognize, that kind of thing. But it was very odd how as an American I felt and I was treated. And I started realizing what the world thinks of Americans. And I was very like shocked that everybody's like, yeah, you're like arrogant and you look down at the world. Like, no, I don't. Like, what are you talking about? And here's a funny story. I love this part. This is something that's funny. That before I moved here, I was sitting down. I was having dinner at this lady's house. She's the daughter of the Singaporean guy from the gym. And she's rich. She's well off, she's an actress herself. So like, she came from wealthy family, and here from Singapore, and then she migrated to the U.S., went to college, and became an actress and stuff like that. So, she's well off. But I remember we were arguing about the politics, Bernie Sanders and that kind of thing. And she's a Bernie Sanders supporter, and I don't know nothing about politics. I'm the ignorant white boy who's poor as hell, came from poor. Anyway, but I still remember this point. It was funny because we were arguing about white privilege. And I couldn't grasp what she was trying to tell me. Now I understand more what she's trying to tell me about her being Asian and her exploits of travel. Me being white, no travel exploits. So I'm very ignorant to what she... Until now, moving here, I understand. But I still remember sitting in that living room after dinner and talking to her and having a discussion, and she's literally arguing white privilege while I'm trying to convey to her, like, I grew up in a trailer park where my mom slept with the landlord to pay rent because we didn't have enough money. I remember waiting in line and getting like a box of food from the government and food stamps to buy groceries. And you're telling me I have a better chance to make it than the daughter of a wealthy family just because you're Singaporean or you know, in the general term Asian, you know. It blew my mind to sit in that living room of that day and have this conversation about like I have such a better chance in the world growing up, you know, just because of my skin color. And it was interesting. It was like, in my opinion, it was like reverse racism in a way. Just because I'm white, I'm being viewed as if I have everything ready for me, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I talk about like there's a TV show called Cops. If you've heard of it, it's very
the old one with bad boys.
Exactly. I've had them knock on the door of our house when I was a child because
with the camera.
Yeah, because were
you on TV?
No, I wasn't there on TV. But the point is like 2 doors. I grew up in a trailer park, and I'm the stereotypical trailer trash. You know what I mean? Like you know, the redheaded, you know, trailer trash. And literally 2 doors down, the cops were there, and the filming crew was there, and like they were with the officer that was knocking on doors, like, hey, there's a hostage situation. The father of the 2 kids is threatening to kill the children if the mom doesn't do this or whatever, you know. And so hostage situations. I remember someone would get killed outside my house, and there's like chalk lines on the floor, and like where all the bullet shells were picked up, the cops would mark stuff. And we didn't, as kids at 6, 7, 8 years old, you don't know what this stuff is. Yeah. So we'd go out laying the chalk lines, and we'd play hopscotch on the.
I was going to say, other kids are playing hopscotch.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're looking at all these little like you know, bullet casings on the ground. The bullet casings are gone, but where they were was all these marks and little spray paint on the ground of the crime scene. And we're jumping on them and making games out of it and trying to jump our bikes to see if I can make it from the feet to the arm and stuff, you know. But I grew up in this kind of area, you know, and it wasn't super bad, but it's just reality that happened near my house, you know what I mean? And but to sit there and have a conversation with somebody about I'm like, where'd you come from again? Like, oh, I went to like whatever school she went to, like Harvard or something like that. You know, it's like you went to Harvard. Yeah, I barely graduated high school, you know, stuff like that.
So did she see your point inside of it, or she couldn't look past it?
It was difficult. From what I recall, no. I remember her quote this because her friend was there, and they were both. I mean, I'm not political much. I would lean conservative. Like when I got older and started getting decent jobs, having some money, I enjoy having guns and enjoying my Second Amendment right to shoot them and go shooting, and I like that kind of thing. I thought about going hunting, but I like that kind of stuff, and I don't get into the abortion stuff, all these standard political discussions. But as her and her friend, who was white as well, but she was a well-off family, they're all from Hollywood and L.A., like the ritzy people, you know. But her friend's kind of sitting there like drinking her wine and kind of laying on the couch sideways, and they're both almost interviewing me slightly, like, and I remember her
they have microphones like this.
No, I wish. It would have been a great conversation. But getting more to the point was, I remember at one point, it was mainly me and this the Asian girl, the Singaporean girl, talking back and forth, and the friend was kind of chiming in but kind of just listening. And I remember the friend noticed that we were kind of at this impasse. Like, we weren't getting angry with each other, we were just kind of at this impasse, like kind of looping around the same thing over and over and over. And her friend's like trying to like wrap it up, like, hey,
just make sure it doesn't get a bit too,
or next subject please, something like that, right? And I remember her looking at her friends, no, I like to watch it think. Yes. And I was like, and I still remember that quote, like that and it still stuck with me, and I think she corrected herself like him, but it's like she said it and then she, I like to watch how he thinks. And it was like, and I never, it was very interesting because I'm like sitting there going like, wow, this is like an interview with some poor white trash that, you know what I mean, or something. That's how I felt. Like, she's a good friend of mine still to this day. But it was an interesting conversation we had that it was my first involvement in being looked at, because I came up the way I came up with other poor people, like Mexicans and Puerto Ricans. Like, I didn't look at them as Mexican, Puerto Rican. I was like, we're all broke. You know what I mean? Like, we ain't got no money. I tell a story about I learned this the hard way. I didn't even know. You know how bologna has like that red wrapping on it?
Yeah, I think in other countries it's called Devon.
Right, but it's
Yeah.
like it has that red. I thought it was skin for years.
I used to eat that when I was
Yeah,
little.
that's plastic, bro.
Yeah.
I learned that. I didn't know that. I ate so
Yeah.
much plastic when I was a kid. Dude, I had no idea. We would eat these bologna sandwiches, and I would just eat the skin. I thought it was skin. I thought it was the
There's a
skin
few
of the
extra
meat.
calories.
Yeah, exactly.
Important.
But it was
nutrient.
interesting, and I don't even know why I went down that road, but it was like moving here, and Singapore's a melting pot of people too. A lot of cultures come here, you know what I mean, and but I remember being exposed to it now, and then I started. Then I saw her argument. I think back to that discussion I had with her and her friend, and I'm like, oh, I can see why the general idea of American could be arrogant. Because now I look at America like arrogant pricks. You know what I mean?
When I was at school, like, and probably. It's do you know what? It's until I came here, like I sort of had a dislike for Americans. Like honestly, like because like at school, like in Australia is like, as a country in general is like pretty closed off. Like your education you'll learn will be outside of Australia though. Like we'll learn about like European stuff, Asian stuff, not so much about America, but. Like my interactions with Americans had been like they were very like loud and brash sort of thing. Like, but it's just like a stereotype, right? And it's what the media might say outside of America about Americans, right? But then America's quite insular. Like I know that like in the education, like I've met Americans and they would be like, they thought, that I was from Australia. They'd be like, oh, do you know like David?
Oh,
Like
dude,
my friend in
I get
Australia.
that all the time.
But they're also
Yeah.
like they were literally like thought that like there would be kangaroos jumping down the street in Sydney, and I was like, wow, like I didn't take offense to it, but it was also like they were like very very loud, like, and then like Australians are like that as well, like the majority of Australians are like quite ignorant. Depending where you are, it's terrible racism. Like I'm half Chinese, so I got racially abused for being Chinese and went to a very multicultural school and got racially abused for being like white from like maybe it could be Middle Eastern countries or Italian people and it was just how it was when you're young, right? Like everyone's trying to work out who's what, everyone's trying to be tough, no one wants to get beat up and stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of like when I came here, I got to know like a few Americans. It's like, Americans are kind of cool, like they're alright. Like it's more the stereotype, and then the ones that you sort of see and interact with.
Right.
And then I realized another thing, like the people that come to Singapore that are foreign, like Singaporeans sort of see like kind of the worst of white people and the best of white people, in a sense. When I say best, like it's to come here and work, you need an employment pass, right? So in theory, you need a certain skill and you need to be
and you're good
in
at
a
your
certain
craft
way,
as well.
right?
Yeah.
But then some of the people that come over are a little bit like privileged, like and very like sort of upper class, and you see them like, and they're making idiots of themselves. Like they're rude. Yeah. They think they're above everyone, and so when I say the best and the worst, it's like the best in terms of pedigree, but some of the worst people, right?
Yeah, well-off people are not known for being the nicest people either. You know what I mean? It's like they want this done. If you're not going to do it, I'm gonna find somebody else who will, and then let's move on.
And there's some real shitty people here, right? But they're considered like the best, and it's like, what the fuck? And I don't really. And there's some people that are not like that at all, right? And there's some very educated and people who are excellent at their job who are lovely, lovely people. But I do see some of these like people out like drunk and just kind of being super messy. But then I was watching, I don't know, have you seen Notting Hill, that movie? It's like a rom-com and it's got Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts. But Hugh Grant's flatmate is this guy. And he's like a super scruffy looking like English guy, like he's sort of like always in pajamas and like eating cereal, like, and you see fair few people like that when you're in England and stuff like that. and in Australia, and I was watching with Dizzy, and he's like looking at the TV. He's like, I was like, what are you looking at? She's, that dude's weird. Like, and he's like an eccentric character, right? But it's like, I was like, oh, you've never seen white people like that, huh? Do you know what I mean? He's like, no. I was like, oh, there's loads of people like that.
Yeah.
Like, but they don't get to come here. So, well, I'll say look super odd.
Yeah.
And a bit scruffy. It's like, you know, a lot of those will be very, very good people.
Yeah.
So it's like a distorted view of what white people
Completely.
are here.
Well,
Because you're only getting a portion.
The same story you told about, you know, do you know David? Like, I get the same thing. Like, America's quite large as well. And, like, and at least my stereotype, I would say, is a little bit better than the kangaroos. You know what I mean? Like, where are you from? U.S. Oh, like, at least they'll go where? At least there's a certain amount of people. I do get the, like, do you know George? Like, well, where? You know, like...
Yeah.
You know?
He's a good guy.
But when I do say California, they all think I'm from the beach. And for some reason, I think California does have, like, stereotype of, like, everyone's rich or well off in Cali, you know, this type of thing. And, like, and the one thing I get a lot of is, like, you left Cali to come here. Like, why? We leave here to go to Cali. Why are you doing it the other way, you know? And then, and I just think the general other thing is, like, the other thing I get a lot is not just being American and that whole, we get past that. So what brought you here? Oh, I teach jiu-jitsu. What's that? Oh, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You're not Brazilian. You noticed. Good job. You know what I mean? It's like, so why do you do it? You know what I mean? It's like, as if like accounting as a race, like, you know, like, oh, you're an accountant. Oh, what part of Japan are you from? Like all Japanese people are accountants or something. I don't know. It's like, I'm from America. Like, oh, you're not Brazilian. Do you know why do you do Brazilian jiu-jitsu? You know, it's like, I don't know, man. It's like, it's crazy. So it's like, I'm coming from a country that a lot of people think are like, everybody knows George, and then I teach Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I'm not Brazilian. It's like I'm lost in who I am or something. You know?
Yeah, I think like, and also, I don't know. It's just, I think Singapore is a little microclimate of humans. Do you know what I mean? And it's
there's
like,
not a lot of poor here either. So that's another thing I was gonna say is like, growing up the way I did, when I start getting into like, after we get past these conversations of like, oh, America, oh, Brazil, like, you're not Brazilian. Once you get past that, then like, well, how'd you get here? I'm like, well, I grew up really poor, and like the only way to like, I tell everybody the story. It's funny, like my mom had to work I already mentioned earlier that she would like, you know, sleep with our landlord, you know, whore herself out, you know, to put it bluntly, you know what I mean, to pay rent. She's working 3 jobs just to put food on the table, and I remember our rent was $131 a month, and we couldn't pay it. Like, we're that broke. Government assistance, the whole shebang. Like, literally, it was like cheap babysitting is the phrase I use a lot, because she could drop me off several afternoons and evenings a week, where she could drop me off and she can go work a 3rd job. And so, and plus growing up the way I did, with the way the stories I tell about like people getting shot and killed, you know, and she's like, well, martial arts, you know, try to get him at least be able to defend himself if someone tried to kick his butt, you know. So, you know, that just turned into where I am now. You know, it's like, you know, like I said about cauliflower, you don't get this because you're good. You know what I mean? I think we've all bumped into like, you know, I'm nothing special per se in jiu-jitsu. Like, you know, as much as that's my career, I'm not a world champion like that, but I'm decent at what I do, you know, and that's why I'm here. But it's like the cauliflower, like what I was going to mention earlier, is like one thing that I did take from the training, as rudimentary as it may have been. Like, I had a really great teacher. Master Joe was an amazing teacher, but when I trained with other guys, like I said earlier, it was like sometimes a communication barrier. It's just a lot of fighting, a lot of pohada, you know, and my karate background of like fighting and full contact stuff, like, you know, black eyes and broken jaws and these types of things, you know, broken ribs, toes, knuckles. Anyway, is what I did take away was a lot of like heart and fight. Like, it's very hard to beat somebody who came up that way. You know, like you talk to Zorro, like, you know, he talks about his story of coming up like 6 guys to a house and blah blah blah. He's like, you know, like, to me and some of these other guys, the reason I'm in Singapore doing a craft that's not my culture is because I grew up poor, and fighting was a way of life to slightly get your way out of it. If UFC never popped up, it probably would have never even built to what it is now. At least I wouldn't have students the way I did to build my craft of teaching. But as a small white guy learning a fight sport coming from super poor, you're either durable or you get washed out. You know what I mean? And you sit there and like you get mounted. We're talking about what were you talking about? What you mentioned the other day? The CO2 tent or something like that, the carbon monoxide tent, right? Like that was a type
that's a secret. you don't.
But those are the things that people would do to you back in those days. Like, you don't do the CO2 tent now. You know what I mean? Not in
Singapore. I do, and people freak out. I did to Ollie the other night, and he was like, ooh.
But it's like a lifestyle of fighting coming up from a poor area like I did. It's like you really build to be a durable person that can take this kind of stuff. It's like, I think that's why I was flown across the globe to teach a craft that I just grew up digging myself out of a hole doing it, you know, like the cage fighting, the full contact karate, the judo, the jiu-jitsu, like the old school jiu-jitsu style of just pohada and suck it up, you know. I remember I went to Cobrinha's one time and I got stuck in a guy took my back and he had a cup on and he freaking like just hipped into it.
Oh, like a Thai one.
Yeah, and like he tweaked my back. And like it's and there's like 40 people on the mat sparring and shit like that. It's the middle of sparring. And he tweaked my back. And I'm like, oh shit, give me a second. Like, oh, my back, you know. And like he's like, well, you good, man? I was like, I don't know, man. Like I'm not known for being a wuss, you know. I'm like my back's kind of jacked up right now. And they like literally like, you think they're helping you? They kind of just rolled me to the wall, gave me a cup of water, and went back to fighting. Like
water.
Yeah, like you know, and these are the mats I was on, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, there's so many times I wanted to quit, but like you devote so much time something to a craft, and like when you dig yourself out of I wasn't from the favelas of Brazil, but I was from the favelas of white neighborhoods, you know what I mean? Whatever you want to call those. It's like, I was like, oh, this is all I know. You know, all I know is fighting. All I know is jiu-jitsu. All I know is judo. All I know is karate. It's like I've been fighting all my life, you know, in a way, and that's why I'm here. You know what I mean? Like people are like, you're from America? Are you like an accountant? Are you a banker? You're a banker? Not with these ears, man. No, like not exactly.
I've been to a bank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
a couple times.
But it's weird how I was treated. And to go back to that lady's conversation with me, like I'm just some fighter kid from a poor neighborhood. Like I don't even know who Bernie Sanders really is. Like I haven't met him yet. Yeah, I don't really met him yet. You know. Because it's like things like this. It's weird how the outlook on Americans can be when they don't know. But that's the sad thing, because I would say that white people and Americans globally are probably known to be the more racist and arrogant global culture. But then you meet one and you treat them that way, and come to find out, like, well, I was the poor kid and I grew up in these weird areas, and you have no idea where I came from, my walk of life.
But it's a generalization, right? And humans do that.
They do.
Like, they just do. They judge people.
Like I say, I'm very judgmental because we talked about earlier, my ignorance of travel. I started traveling. In every country I land in, there's a little form they pass out. You got to check some boxes. And one I always saw was, have you been to Africa in the last 6 months? Right? No. I started asking, like, why is it so concerning if I've come to... And so if I ever meet someone who's like, oh, I've been to Africa. What? You check yes on that box? Like, I want to...
What happens after you do that?
I was always something like, why? What happens if you check that box? Like, you know, it's like... But I can see why, you know, like, just absorbing other cultures, you know, it's weird.
But, like, it's like humans are... like constantly receiving data and evaluating stuff, right? Like, and whether that's like you're a kid at school or you're subconsciously like, I don't know, like a 3-year-old, like you're receiving information, and like it's like in your DNA, right? Like if you see another man, you're observing them. Like, are they a threat? Like, you know, like if you go back in primitive times, right? Or I don't know, if you grew up in a rough place, right? Like that's what you're sort of more observing. Like, you know, like, oh, that dude's bigger than me. Like, oh, you know, does he look at me funny or whatever? Yeah, like you're constantly sort of making assessments on people, right, without knowing them.
Yeah, I about 6 months ago, I was able to go to SAS, the Singapore American School.
Okay.
And I taught like a self-defense seminar to like the graduating class. Like not the whole class, obviously, but it was like 25, 30 kids. They're in this program to get taught some things, and part of it's martial arts. So I was like their PE class, and I did like 3 hours that day, like 3 1-hour classes. You know what I mean? Different groups, you know. But it's like a program they had to sign up for or something like this, and I was talking to the teacher, like, what's the goal of this, blah, blah, blah. And like, well, a lot of these kids are going to be going off to college, and they enter this program to kind of like, you know, learn a little bit of things. Like, we'll spend a month playing baseball, we'll spend a month playing basketball, and then we do like a month of martial art, something like this. I remember you know.
Sorry, as you say, American school, are they all American kids?
No, I think it's anybody who can pay money. Like, I'm sure there's some type of like, it's insane. I remember I don't know if it's Singapore American school, but there's some school around here is like $35,000 a semester. At like some of these schools, and I think
like
Singapore
a semester, like a term, like 3 or 4 in a year,
something like that.
Serious?
Yeah, and so like
I think mine was $200 a year.
Yeah, so I think locals can like go to it if they're rich. I guess obviously not. It's not cheap, but I think there's like like you have to have some kind of connection. I don't know the politics of how you get in.
It's so like it's so hierarchical
at
such a young age.
But I was teaching self-defense to these kids, and I was trying to like, you know, the first lesson I like to teach people is like the defense is don't be there, and so I'm telling them, I was like, you guys are all like, you know, and I think that the teacher liked it, but I used my background to kind of like accentuate the class I'm teaching, and I'm like you guys are from Singapore. It's very safe here. And the world's not so safe. You know, for example, I've been to Melbourne, something like that. Like, you're walking down a street, any road, there's going to be a bar on this road, and the bar always spills out onto the street. There's like bar tops, and there's guys drinking out front. And for some of you girls or some of you guys, you walk by, you can stay on this sidewalk, and you continue to walk on the left side of the road. Or you can just cross the street and just walk past the bar on the opposite side of the road. Draws less attention. You know what I mean? And it's little things like this are called street smarts. If you want to avoid something, what's that? A bunch of drunk people outside of a bar. Let's keep walking down the sidewalk and see how it goes. That's not exactly what we're talking about. Self-defense is not always about how to defend myself once something's happened. It's also should be discussed
avoidance, right?
Avoiding at all cost. You know, I think a common misconception is like, oh, you're a black belt, oh, you're a fighter, oh, how many fights you been in? I don't know, 2. 2? What? Oh yeah,
but you're getting like 4 realistic ones, like every night. It's like you can't be bothered to fight someone for real.
You're right. Yeah, there's that too.
Really, you want to fight me? No, man.
But a lot of times it's just like you learn avoidance. Like you said, I'm tired. Like I'm a jerk. Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. Whatever you buy another drink. What I do? I'm sorry. Something like this. But I remember conveying this message and looking at them like, you guys have no idea what the world is like. You guys live in Singapore. Like, you know, come on.
Me and Carl, we had this intern, and he was like a lovely dude, like Stephen, and he was like very, very shy, and he was like he was with us for about 3 months, right? We were working in this big advertising agency, and he was like a graduate, I think, or I don't know. He was still in university, and then after the time with us, he was going to go to America, Buffalo, around New York or something, and he was going to study there. I think he was going to go for a year, and we were doing this shoot, and he was with me, and it was towards the time that he was going to leave, like, and he was like, I was talking to him about it, and I was like, oh, so you're going to New York soon, right? And he's like, yeah. I was like, Stephen, man, you need to be a little bit more switched on, because he was a little bit like, he was smart, but like he was smart here. He wasn't like wide. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so once you told him to do something, he'd do it good, but he might not necessarily realize it need to be done, sort of thing. Like, so you need to be like thinking a bit more. You know, like I said, like there, like people are going to be like sussing you out. Like you look different, like and from your ethnicity, but even just how you walk. Like how you're conducting yourself on the street, the clothes you wear, you're gonna be looking like a really different dude. And some people there are poorer, and crime happens. It's like, so like maybe you're in a dodgy area, you might want to have like split your money into, you know what I say? It's like when I've been in like dodgy places, it's like I'll have my Robyn money. Do you know what I mean? Like and it's like it might be $20, enough to just someone to go away, and I might have $200 in another pocket or whatever else I'm sort of carrying, right? And someone come up to you and you take it, and just give it to them and just act scared, and then they go away, and then okay, then problem solved, right? I said you might need to be like that, and we were talking and he's yeah, that's a good idea and stuff like this, and then he sort of later in the day he goes, oh, what should I do when I'm in New York, Paul? I was like, if I were you, I would do everything that you feel comfortable with that you can't do here in Singapore. And he's like, like that. I was like, I'm not telling you to go out and do some crazy stuff, but like do some other experiences. Do stay safe. Don't do something you're not comfortable with. But like there's different things that you can do and experience and places you can go or whatever. Yeah, but he was like, it is different to the rest, to a lot of other places here.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much I think that I don't know how the general public operates, but at least the friends and students and people I've met here seem to travel a lot. It seems to be quite normal here to travel, but they travel, but they don't have any street smarts. Street smarts, I think, is really lacking here. You know, I grew up on the streets, and I don't have much of an education. I mean, I graduated high school and like that, but I didn't go to proper university or anything like that. I just graduated the minimum just to get a regular GED and all that kind of stuff like that. Not GED, but actual diploma. But I grew up on the street. You learn this kind of stuff. I mean, like, I've had guns pulled on me. I mean, I've been sat down on a couch, like me and my buddy are walking, or not walking, but I'm dropping my buddy off like somewhere, and hey, come on inside for a minute. And they sit us down on the couch. I've had a guy pull a gun out and like sit there and talk to you. So, hey. And I freak out, like, what the hell did I do? And it turns out my buddy talked to the wrong girl. He's like, I'm just letting you know, you shouldn't talk to my girlfriend. That was quite
So
normal.
he pulled it out. It wasn't like, I'm just going to put my phone down. It was like...
No, he's just like... He's
just
like,
letting you know, like...
I just want to talk to you for a second. I just want to talk to you for a second. You're cool. Don't worry about it. And he's looking at me. I'm going to talk to your buddy here. Your buddy here, hey, just want to let you know. Don't mess with my girlfriend. You shouldn't be talking to certain girls. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of... And you're like... And I'm like, you get it? I hope you get this shit. Go get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean?
Point taken.
Yeah. You understand what he's saying? Can we leave now?
Yeah.
But I've been in some situations, and that was quite normal. People, guns, like maybe I hung out with some interesting people I didn't know were interesting at the time. You know what I mean? But like it's really, it can be a dodgy world. You can really get wrapped up quick. You know what I mean? And it's like, you see it sometimes that Hollywood does a decent job conveying it in some of these movies. Like they show like this, the guy wakes up, he's got his eggs and bacon, and the wife, oh, bye, honey. And then 8 hours later, he's kind of bleeding in a ditch. Like, and then they cut to the scene. They're like, well, how does it happen? How does he go from eggs in the morning to bloody in a ditch? You know what I mean? Like, this shit can change in a blink of an eye.
I'd never been to America. Like, it was just always somewhere else I wanted to go, and it was also very far away. And I was very lucky to get a ticket anywhere in the world, right, for that incident on the plane, right? And so I was like, I ain't going to Bali. It was a business class ticket. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to America. And I had a month off, and because I had a friend over there in LA, and at the time we were talking about that maybe, that I can do something with him over there for work and stuff like that. So I was like, well, I'll go there. I don't try to see the whole of America. It's too big. Go there, just go to a few places in LA and just enjoy it, but also like consider what it might be like to live, sort of thing. And so it's
Where'd
like,
you go?
I was staying with a friend. Is it San Pedro?
San Pedro.
Yeah, like by the water, and there was a Navy ship down there. And it felt like where tourists sort of don't go. Like I remember sort of walking around, and people was sort of a little bit like they could tell I was not from around there. I don't know. And then I went down to San Diego. Where was that place you told me to go to in San Diego?
Oh man, one of the like hippie beaches?
Yeah. What was that?
Is it Mission Beach or Ocean Beach? I think?
Ocean Beach?
Mission Beach is pretty popular, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a thing called beach cities. It's like the main thing. That's a touristy thing. Mission Beach,
Oh no, but it was Ocean Beach. It was Ocean Beach.
Ocean Beach.
Ocean
Okay.
Beach.
If it had this kind of like almost Nam vibe to it, man. Like it kind of like just all these dudes like playing drums and kind of like it's well out there.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's like street performers all go down by the beach and the boardwalks. And
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, like.
And then I was in Venice,
All right.
which I thought was amazing that like so many things from... I expected Venice to be big. In Australia, everything's
Oh no.
kind of big. Like, so much has come from that little like suburb
Yeah.
that affected the world, like from like the Doors to like
Yeah.
like at Tony Alva and skating.
You can walk
and
across it in
Vans
like
and-
10 minutes.
Yeah,
It's not even.
I was
it's not
that
big at all.
that blew me away.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got a little bit posh and got an Airbnb. I was around. Is it the Palisades?
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
It was near
Malibu
some.
Beach,
I was near some very steep stairs,
Yeah,
and at the
Malibu.
bottom of them, and then at the other side there was like a canyon of some sort.
Yeah. It's like Malibu area and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean it was like nice, but it was
Yeah.
super posh. But like when I was like, I'd go into the downtown and I'd see my friend, his name's Blaze, and check out where he's working and that. And I got the bus in from San Pedro, and like I've got a small bladder. Like I'm very surprised I haven't had to stop already to pee. And I'm like, especially mornings, man. Like, and I had to like get off the bus, like I was gonna piss myself. So just got off the bus, next stop I could, and sort of went down, and I was like I was down in sort of like towards Compton. And I was in the lower numbers, which is sort of the dodgy bit, right? And I was kind of like I had to pee on the street. Like this is just like one of those that you're gonna piss yourself or you're gonna find somewhere not to. So I just did that. And then I walked for 40 minutes. I didn't see another white person, and like people sort of like looking at me, but they weren't like, it wasn't like aggressive looking. It was just like, what are you doing here? And I was walking along, and this dude, like, he was like, he looked like what Hollywood portray people that are from there, and he's like, oh man, like, what are you doing here? And it's like, oh, I was just walking around, just checking out, and he was like, oh, where are you from? And I said, oh, I'm from Australia, and I live in Singapore. And he's like, oh, that's crazy, man. And like we like sat in the gutter and like chatted for like 20 minutes, and it's like, oh, okay, I gotta go now. I'll meet my friend. I was, oh, where you going? And I'm going to downtown. He's like, oh, you're gonna get there like this, and walk down there, get on that bus. And he was like super friendly, like, and I'm sure, and I was like aware, and just like I told Steve, and I had my Robyn money, and like, cause it's not definitely the safest neighborhood, especially if you ain't from around there. But I found like everything like to be super fine. Like even in the downtown, like I walked through Skid Row and stuff like that, and it was like sad to see like what's going on down there. And it was like it never got edgy, but like I was like proper on alert.
Yeah, I think you have to be. You have to be anywhere. Like, I mean, it's one of those things where like any road you walk down. Like, I mean, and I'm guessing this is daytime. Like, what time? Like,
it was daytime, but I was in Skid Row at night. And I wasn't in Compton at night.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in Compton.
No, I knew that, right?
And that's the thing. Like, it's more about where you like. Let's just say like, there's 5 roads. Right, you're walking down one road, and there's 5 roads or alleyways you can walk down. Everyone knows don't go down alley 4.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'm not gonna say you got lucky that day. It's never that bad.
No, but you can go down the wrong one.
You can definitely go down the wrong road where like.
Yeah, and that's the same as London. I worked with this lady. She was like very well to do, and like her next door neighbor was Bob Geldof, right? 2 streets back, you could get stabbed. Like, it's just how it is. But like, okay, you don't go through that area. You just kind of know, right?
Yeah, my buddy took me to his house one time in Riverside, and it's a decent area, but it's known for its bad areas. And I went to he was a Samoan guy, and I went to his family house. His grandma made us. His grandma is Samoans are very
a Samoan.
Yeah, Samoan. Yeah.
He was a small guy.
No, big guy.
Oh, I was gonna say
he's a Samoan. Samoa, you know, and. I hate to say it racially. Samoa,
no, because in Australia you have a lot of islanders, and like they're huge.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Like genetically superior.
Huge. Yeah, and his grandma was just as big as him. Like they're all big people.
Yeah.
But like you walk in and she's like, "You hungry?" I was like, "No, I'm okay." She's like, "You're hungry?" I'm like, God, of course I am. You know. But I remember he took me outside. We throw the football around on the street because we're on our way to a job. I was if you can believe it, for about a blink of an eye, I was a bouncer at some clubs because of my martial art background, and all these guys were like students of mine. I could, in a nice way, I could beat all of them up, type of thing, right? I'm not. Bouncing's more about intimidation. You know, you see me at a door, you're like, I'm getting in that bar, like, let alone the guy can stop you, but it's like, come on. But anyway, like that's what I was there for. I was meeting him there, and he ran a bouncing club, a bouncing team, and they would they would be security for these nightclubs. And I did a couple jobs, and I got asked to like, hey, like you're not intimidating enough. I'd rather have this fat guy who can't fight, who's like 9 feet tall, than you. Yeah,
because people think, it's cool. Like, and even though you can kick their ass, it's like the manager don't necessarily want to see that kicking off.
Exactly. We don't need to prove you can do it. We just need you to look like you can. And you don't look like you can. Yeah. And so anyway, we're outside. And I remember him telling me he's like, we meet for the job here, we do our thing, but you're probably gonna leave from the event. I was like, yeah, that's cool. He's like, yeah, you probably don't want to come back to this neighborhood after, you know what I mean? He's like, and you're going to be following us in your car, and like they won't know I'm with you. And so you can't come back here after night. In the daytime it's fine. No one cares. All the stupid people are sleeping usually in the afternoon. And but like I remember that I was like, oh shit, I had no idea. And like he like, look, you see that park down the street? Like, yeah. He's like,
don't go to the park.
Don't go to that park. That's like day or night. You don't go there. Like, all right. Like I went to his house like maybe 3 or 4 times, and the jobs were over. I was asked to like kind of not partake anymore, but I still remember like it's one of those things where it's a nice neighborhood in the day. The locals, if you're a local and you and I are walking together, and somebody looks out their window, like, oh, okay, he's with Paul. Yeah. And what's weird about these types of some like microcultures, I guess you could call them. Their street smarts are on a whole nother level. Their educations are low usually. That's unfortunate, but like they'll memorize my face. Oh yeah, there's a different intelligence that's occurring. Yeah, like I saw you with Paul 3 days ago at 4 o'clock. You know what I mean? It's like holy shit. You know what I mean? Like so I could maybe come back, but they'll like it's almost like neighborhood security, like neighborhood watch. You know what I mean? Like well, it's community, right? It is. Yeah. I was in Philippines and. Like that's a place that scares me, to be honest. I'm nervous there. People tell me there's like a lot of weird stuff there. Yeah, that's a dodgy. I mean, Philippines is huge, but like the way we talk about Compton as a small little suburb of LA type of thing. I've heard Philippines is like that. Like it's the Compton of Yeah, like some parts, right? Like you have to be more aware. Like, and I was visiting like people there, and they were not well off. They were in a slum, like a favela. Like and I've been to the favela, and it was like that. And you'd sort of walk along the street, and there'd be like a doorway, sort of just a gap between shops like that, and you sort of go through it, and then it just like open up. There's like rabbit warrens, like people living sort of down under there, people living up there. They've all sort of built it. Like these people had in their house, like in, I think from memory, maybe 3 rooms, and there would be like 8 people sleeping in one room. In like a very like super nice, hospitable people, and I could feel like people looking at me, but it was okay because I was with them. And you sort of don't know. And some of those looks is like, they're looking. What have you got on you? Like, what watch have you got? Like, obviously, I didn't have a nice watch or anything like that. Like, you sort of dress for the occasion, right? And then like, and then after the second time, like I was there, sort of like, because people say hello as well, right? Friendly. So just like walk out on my own and stuff a little bit. Like I knew where to go and not that far. And this old lady, she came up to me and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I was like, I'm with the family down there. She's like, I've lived here for 40 years and I've never seen a white person in here. And I was like, but it was like, that's cool. Like I felt like pretty welcomed by them as well. And we like watched a cockfight and everything. Well, that's the funny thing. Like you say, like you experiencing that, and if you're open-minded, you experience things like that. I think that's why I experienced some of the things I experienced. like I was lucky enough to make a couple of good choices in life and not go down that road. I grew up in these areas I've described, and there's drugs everywhere. Here's another weird thing, like marijuana was legal in California at a certain degree. I've never smoked. Never ever smoked weed. And that's crazy, right? Like, you've never smoked. You're from Cali. You grew up poor as shit. Like, that's, you should.
But that's the stereotype that the outside sees in.
Right, but I was telling you, when I was 14 years old, I took a puff of a regular cigarette, like a Camel cigarette, whatever, right? And I was like, this is disgusting. And I never did anything else. And like, when I started digging myself out of a hole and like seeing things, like my dad was a huge drug addict. I remember him like offering to give me drugs so that like, he's like, we'll get high together. Like, we'll do this. We'll do anything you want to do. Mushrooms, you want to do heroin, you want anything. I'll get it for you. That way I know it's clean, and then we'll do it together. And I'm like, what? You're like a drug addict? Dude?
But
like,
he was probably thinking like, if he might have been thinking that like, under some sort of supervision rather than like running wild with
totally
other
understand
people,
that.
possibly.
But the problem, great comparison. This is usually the thing I get back. So I compare it back as if I ever have a child. It's the exact same conversation because I'm my dad in this situation. I'm talking to my son, and I'm going to go to him like, if you ever want to do jiu-jitsu with me because I do it every day. My dad was that guy. He's like, hey, I do drugs every day. You want to do drugs?
He was a black belt and doing drugs.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing. Like, I completely understand your point of like getting a hold of some drugs and making sure it's safe because my kid wants to try it. But I'm like, this is a drug addict father going, if you're going to do it, we do it together.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
There's a difference between like, if somebody is not inexperienced, but also like things are set up well, and the family home's doing well, or whatever, to somebody who might have an addiction problem and saying it is
exactly. And so it's like
there's
okay,
a difference there.
That's like the kind of comparison I make, but growing up in that kind of in a way, But it was like I was open minded, so like I would bump in and like. Not everybody has made good choices, and some of my friends, several of my friends have died. Some friends have made it, and it just is part of growing up in those types of areas. You know what I mean? Like I remember when I was in high school, we took it was a general health class, and they would talk about nutrition, and they would talk about working out, and they would talk about sex and things like this. Safe sex. That class would always cover all those bases, especially for young teens. Entering the world, and you're like, I think that class is available when you're like a junior in high school, so you're like 16.
Okay.
A couple more years you're gonna be out in the real world, and I remember her telling us one time, she's like, yeah, there's 33 kids in this class, and statistically 3 of you won't make it to 25 years old.
Due to death.
Yeah.
Well,
and we're like,
that's the only way you won't make it, I guess.
Time out. But it's like, and all of us, I just remember for like 30 seconds, she let us all just kind of look around the room.
Who's it going to be?
Who's it going to be? It was like Hunger Games. But 3 of us not
and was there one kid that like everyone was just like,
Yeah, exactly. It was. Man. It's like, that's the weird reality of it. And I haven't done it yet, but me and my friends joke about, like, next time I go home, we're going to open up the yearbook and start lining people out who aren't alive anymore. It's like, it's been 20 years since I've been out of high school. But it's like, let's go through this book and see who still made it. Or, because, like, it's funny because, like, one of the things you see on, like, Netflix, when you watch Netflix, is, like, they do these, like, I like watching documentaries a lot. And sometimes you see, like, a documentary of a serial killer. And they're doing this documentary. They always throw a baby picture in.
Yes.
It's interesting to see. Like,
there's a formula in those documentaries.
Right, but then you see that baby picture of him playing little Mikey with his baseball bat, with his glove, and you're like, damn, he like rapes and kills 12 people. It's like, how does that happen? What happened in that person's life? And so when I see stuff like that, I think about myself. Because they talk about, like, he grew up in this neighborhood, his parents did this, his dad was a drug addict. I'm looking at my family bio sometimes about my mom and our hard times and then by growing up in a broken household, and then my father being a drug addict, and I'm like, man, how the hell did I make it to Singapore? It's like
you go to the kitchen and just put the knives like out of the way where you can't get them just in case.
It's crazy. It's really wild when you see it, and it's like, man, there's so many doors were open for me to be a different person.
Yeah.
As well as yourself. Anybody can look back, like that kind of thing. But it's like, man, like so many bad things I've done, so many good things I've done. Like, just somehow I made it. Just like, sometimes the skin of your teeth. You're like, how the hell do you make it?
Where I grew up was like fine. Do you know what I mean? Like my parents, like they were pretty poor, right? They got a taxi to their wedding, so that's not that rich. I don't know if it was a nice one or what, but it was a taxi. But like I think my dad like left school very young, lied about his age, and got a job in the mines, like underground and that. And then my mum was Chinese blood, and then she kind of like was a school teacher, and then I think they met, and then my dad's dad, he wasn't super keen about him marrying an Asian lady, because like back then, plus like Australians are, some of them are pretty good at being racist, right? And he was sort of like, oh, there's plenty of nice white girls out there. Why don't you find one of those, sort of thing? And my mum's family's super early to immigrate. Like her school yearbook, there's loads of just white kids and one Asian kid. Oh. Like Italians hadn't come yet, Greek people, Lebanese. Like there was just no migration, so they were very early. And yeah, but they kind of like, I think when they met, then my mum got through university and then paid for my dad to go through college. So they kind of like made it through themselves. And then we were sort of lucky to live like, it's a nice area, right? Like super like leafy and that. But then the next suburb over was a little bit more sort of edgier. And then they could have sent me to like a nice school, but by the boundary, they sort of sent me to this other school that was like 3 train stops away, which was on the outside probably looked okay, but like in there it was like, it's pretty hectic at times. Like Australia's not like America, right? So there's not so much guns. One friend of mine had gun and he brought it to school and stuff like that. And but I don't know, it was kind of like vicious. Like if you had a fight and even if you won, especially most of the times, then the next day an older brother would be at school to just fix, to right the wrong, right the wrong. And it was but there was also like, I don't know, I remember like a puppy walked through the school one day and some kids kicked it to death. Like that's pretty shit. Do you know what I mean? And that's like what people then end up like serial killing do, right? They harm animals and stuff, and it's like not as violent in terms of like a gun thing, but it was pretty aggressive school.
That's
like
really like,
you had to like not stand down or you would just get trampled over, sort of thing. Like I remember one kid threw a brick at a teacher's head. Another dude like punched the school principal, and he lived like his school backed right onto his house backed right onto the school, so he got suspended, but he was only over the fence, sort of thing. Like it was like a bit weird. And then in Australia you have muck up day, so like on the last day of school, you go there and you like throw eggs or something, and people like wreck their school uniform, and it's like a tradition.
Okay.
And then because our school was like bad, it was known as bad, and there was a new principal there, and he was like, there's no such thing as muck up day. We will be hiring security guards, and I will be sleeping at the school and all this stuff. And you can see like all the kids like the fuck about it, and there's no such thing at muck up day. And then some kids were saying like, we're all going to meet at the park on this night, right? And it's the last day of school that you need to be there, but there's still, you got to do your formal, so that's like your prom. Mm-hmm. And you still got to get like your certification and stuff like this. And I can't remember if there's still exams to do or not. I think there might be still exams to do. And then we were at a friend's place, and his dad he wasn't like your dad in that sense. He was more like, there was a back shed and he made it nice, and it was like, I'd rather you guys drink down there because I know you're going to drink elsewhere. And we were like 16 sort of thing.
I get that, yeah.
And he was like, his dad was probably pretty good at drinking, but he's probably like a 4-stripe purple belt sort of thing, right? Okay. And then, so we were there like drinking, and then someone sort of said, tonight's the night everyone's going to meet. Should we go? And we're like, oh yeah, we'll just have a look. We get there, 60 people in this park. Like, they're all like dressed in dark sort of clothes, right? Like, oh wow, like, so like, you know, like this sort of not mob mentality, but sort of, right, like there. Goes to the school, and we come down like around the back of the school oval, so it's like that's like a big football pitch, and the sides like raised, and we sort of like come down there, and you could see that someone had already been there and put like lumps of dirt. Like, you needed to get like a small truck on to do it, right? And crosses in there, and we found out later, you couldn't see from where we were, they'd written teachers' names on the crosses, right? Very creative. We also found out later that someone stole a car, drove it through a fence into another school's pool, because there was like nice schools around it, and then like spray painted on the ground like happy muck update from our school.
Jesus. And
then another school got dyed red and something. And we're walking down this grass bit, and then a car comes in to the main quadrangle over there, and you could see it was like a security car because it had like spotlights on the roof, and they shone it across. So everyone's like lying down on the thing, and you could see like the light go above you. So it was like super exciting. And then like when the car left, then it was like, you know, a Braveheart, when they all just run.
Oh yeah,
it was like that, and like everyone was just like running at the school, and people like. It was childhood sort of excitement that manifested in vandalism of sorts, right? Like, and people would break windows, and then people would like super glue all the locks. But I saw the vice captain, like there was this sort of Greek style, old style statue of a boxer, and the vice captain, who's supposed to be a respectable young man, was like hitting it with a sledgehammer. It was just like, wow, this is mental. Like, everyone's just going for it.
Right?
Yeah. And then the next day, me and my friends, we went to the beach, and then we came home, and we were at my friend's place. We didn't go to school that next day, and his mum came home, and she was like, "What have you little bastards been doing?" And we're like, oh yeah, sorry, you know, we went to the beach today, we should have gone to school or whatever. Yeah, because markup day is not actually on the last day, it's around that sort of time. And she goes, turn on the TV when the news comes on. And we're like, oh, okay, because there was a 5 o'clock news and a 6 o'clock news. So she'd seen the 5. So we turned on the 6 o'clock, and it was the first story. And there was like our school, and all the kids were going, no, we won't go. No, we won't go. The principal came in and suspended the whole year, and that no one was going to get their certification.
Oh no.
Yeah, and the prom was off, whatever. So someone rang the news, and then the news turned up. Jeez. And then it became a thing, and he had to illegally allow us to get the certification and all this stuff, but it was so it wasn't the worst school, but it was like
anything like that.
Pretty bad school.
Most of our stuff was probably like just outside of the school. Like, people go to school, and I remember like colors were a big thing. Like, there was Bloods and there was Crips.
Oh, so that was there.
They would sling colors, like meaning they would wear their you know, like thing, and they would get in trouble here and there for like gang affiliation and things like that. But in at least school, they're all like wannabes. They weren't really tied to anything legit. Funny story is, I actually worked with a guy in the Marine Corps base. His son was one of my good friends, and that's so like when I got the job, I got to know him. His dad more, you know, so like that we got to be friends. And come to find out, his dad's cousin or brother, I forget the two. Was one of the founding members of the Crips.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, this is a crazy detail, you know what I mean? So I was like,
see that on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Crip founder.
Yeah.
Crips.
That's a high title right there, you know. But so it was definitely in the area and around, you know. But it was like, I don't know, like we didn't have any muck up days like that. We had like senior ditch day, like we all just don't go to school, you ditch class.
We had that a lot.
Yeah. There's a little bit more fun.
I went to the beach a lot. Yeah. I remember my teacher was like...
I'm 2 hours from the beach, so to like not go to school and hang out in the middle of the desert next to a cactus, who gives a shit? No, we're going to go to school.
At least I got AC, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I remember I was away for 4 days or something, and I came back to school, And my geography teacher, she's like, "Oh, Paul, I thought you were sick." I'm like, "Yeah, I was sick." She goes, "Yeah, but your skin's really brown." I was like, "Miss vitamin D. Like, I've been very, very sick." And she's yeah. I remember going to the beach once and seeing a couch on, like, by the road on the beach on the footpath, and now I think he was a economics teacher asleep on it. Like, cause again, he was, cause we could do surfing for sport, so he would take us there. So he was kind of a cool teacher.
Yeah.
And
sounds like it.
Yeah, like he basically got drunk, crashed over the couch, and his mates have like, and put him out on the footpath, and then like the kids have like woken up early to go, caught the train to the beach, and sort of were like, "Oh, sir," and he's like, and just kind of like just rolled over. Yeah, right. So you've been to come to Singapore, not much travel, and jiu-jitsu's kind of afforded you to get here in a way, right? And then go to other countries.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild going to other countries. Like I don't know, I always wanted to, for some reason, wanted to travel. I don't know why. And I remember like the feeling I got when I first went somewhere, you know, like, and it was actually Malaysia. So like I was going to London, and there was a stopover, and the lady who booked my ticket, because there's no internet there, you booked it through an agency. She said, "Oh, you get there's a stopover in Malaysia. Do you want to get out?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she said, "How long?" I was like, "Don't know." She goes, 2 weeks. I was like, "Yeah, okay." And so like I remember like flying there. I didn't know where I was going. I bought a Lonely Planet at the airport. I was reading it on the thing, on the plane. The stewardess, she said, "Oh, where are you thinking of going?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know." She goes, "Oh, this island's really nice, like Tiaman, which is just near here, right?" And she was like, "Oh, okay. Oh, you're pretty. All right. If you say so, I'll go there," sort of thing. And then like read the book, and it told me to go from here to there and whatever. But I remember getting off the plane, and everything was so different. Like it was like humid. The air smelled different. I don't know, like you walk down the street and there's the cigarettes that people are smoking, like those Kretek ones that smell different. Like,
yeah,
did you have that culture shock?
I've had a lot of culture shocks. Like it was funny. Zorro and Steve still tease me about this, but when I moved here, I literally moved here with my backpack and two things of luggage. That was it. Like,
oh really?
Just on the
some of that's probably gis.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't bring any of that because I wear all the gym's gis. So I didn't.
Okay.
Which was weird. I saved all my. I didn't bring any of my very few items, you know. But I remember they grabbed my bags, you know, and I got my backpack, and they grab my luggage. They throw it in the back of the taxi. The taxi guy sees us. He jumps out the car, and I walk around to the right hand side, and I literally put my foot in, and then I saw the steering wheel. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
You guys driving on the side of the road over here, don't you? But I remember my one culture shock was Philippines. When I landed in the Philippines, I don't know why. I mean, it sounds. I mean, we talked about earlier. We talked about like being racist and stuff like that. But here I am being racist, and like, but it's like we land in Philippines, and like I don't know why. When I thought I left the airport, I'd see like huts and like grass houses or something. I don't know what it was.
I don't know if that's racist as much as like.
I don't know what
I don't want to say ignorant.
It's
kind of ignorant.
Totally. But as much as I've traveled, the one thing I do tell people is like myself. I see like Abu Dhabi is quite a bit different. Have you been to Abu Dhabi?
I haven't been. No.
Abu Dhabi is a bit different as far as the density of the city.
Mm.
But for the most part, you go to Melbourne. If I were to like bag you up and just drop you in the middle of 7 out of these 8 towns I've been to, Philippines included, and not tell you where I dropped you off, you would. Where am I? CBD, Palms. Am I in LA? Am I in New York City? Am I in downtown Florida? Am I in Abu Dhabi? Am I in Japan? Like, you would have no idea where you are. It all looks the same. It literally does. There's no difference. And you walk down. You're in Philippines, and you go to like. I mean, obviously, I'm talking about the
center of Manila, like
the
Makati and stuff
yeah, exactly,
like that.
Yeah, it obviously. But it's like there's a Starbucks and a Pizza Hut.
But did you like get in a jeepney or anything? Did you?
No, I didn't do that stuff. So that's what I was thinking to myself, like, while you're telling your story for a sec, with my school and stuff, and I was talking about how, like, I must have made some of the right decisions to be where I am, obviously, but I think it was just, I mean, I teach my career and my livelihood is martial arts. It brought me to, it is who I am and what I've perfected to be where I'm sitting now. And I think that's the only thing that kept me out of that crap. Because, like, I mean, I love drinking now. I joke about being an alcoholic per se, you know what I mean? But I'm actually doing Sober October, so I've not had a drink since, like,
you're
September.
You don't drink that much.
No, I don't, but I enjoy it, you know. But what I'm getting at is, like, I mean, when you're in high school, you get drunk with your buddies. I never did that. Like, I'd have a couple drinks here and there.
Yeah, but you've seen around you what it can do, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to be there, because I want to get out of this and do something else.
And the one consistent thing I also had that always was in the back of my head was, for some reason, it was always my mom. Like, even though she was an alcoholic when I got older, after I was raised, you know, alcoholic. But was martial arts, and I mean that in the fact that I was training so much that if I did this, I'm gonna get my ass kicked tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, and that was always in the back of my head. Can I do this and still train tomorrow? And oddly enough, I think that's helped me make some of these decisions. But, like, when certain things would happen in the news, I had no idea. And my general, like, people, hey, how you doing? Starbucks. Hey, man, did you see, like, blah, blah, blah? I'm like, no, I didn't. Like, so, like
9/11? What were we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. You know, like, I was super
Waco, Texas.
I wasn't in the know of a lot of these things, and, like, in partly because I wasn't a stupid kid, but it's like I just graduated general stuff. But it's like, when you're in the gym every day, you know, like, I would always joke with my buddies, like, hey, you see this? Do you know what omoplata is? Well, no, I don't know what the hell you're talking about either. You know, it's like, and it's funny because, like, when you live that gym lifestyle and just the fight lifestyle and competitions every weekend, like, you're so much, you know, almost like you talked about your that guy that worked for you, Steven.
Yeah.
I was so focused on martial arts that I didn't see the news or the politics or the bombings or the.
But next time, like, because it's really cool, like, when things get to normal, right? Like, when you travel somewhere else, like, go somewhere else, man.
Well,
like,
I haven't done that yet.
You have to take extra time off, and
all the trips I've been on are literally, I'm the competition team coach, so, like, when
you can stay longer, surely.
I would stay a couple of days, and I went to a lot of temples in Japan and shrines and stuff. I love that. That was amazing. I love that culture. Like, being a lifelong martial artist, like, I'm like, I want to see this shit. You know, we went to the Samurai Museum, saw all the swords that you went with us.
Yeah, we went there.
Yeah, like, I love that shit. I nerd out over that kind of stuff. I loved it, you know. And then on a different trip, I went to all the different shrines and temples and that kind of thing. I had no idea about these things, you know. And when I went to Abu Dhabi, there's not much to see in Abu Dhabi. Like, I just stayed in the hotel. Like, but when I went to Philippines, I was a bit nervous. I went out a little bit, but, like, well, the sad thing about going out was, I'm just going to. I went to Starbucks in Philippines. Like,
you just go and get lost and just don't get robbed. That's all you need to do, right?
I haven't been to Bali yet. I haven't been to anything local.
But say like
Malaysia yet.
Say like Tokyo, right? Like, cause so I just inside of me is just like, I just want to see different stuff, right? Like, and so same thing, travel for jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff like that, right? Like, so for, like, that time I went to Brazil for Mundial, I was like, it's I went there, trained for a month, but then I stayed for 3 more months. And you know, I got out of Rio and I went around and saw stuff. When I was in Tokyo that time with you guys, I stayed longer, and I just, you know, a day trip to Hakone, which was like totally like in the forest and beautiful.
I've never done any of that, and, like, that's the amazing thing. Like, I applaud you for doing that. Like I was like, I mean, some people just take the risk, and I've heard this story from more people than just what you just said right now. But still, for some reason, I was like, I gotta go to work tomorrow. Like, I mean, just like the story I told earlier about me having the fractured orbital bone, I didn't even know. I blow my nose, and my freaking cheek swells up. I can't even see, and I'm like, I gotta go to work.
You got holidays?
Yeah, I need money, man. I don't have any money. Like, I mean, like, it's like, it was very weird. I have to go to work.
You can do it on the cheap, and you just take the time off.
But like I'm living check to check. Like, I'm talking about, I got like $150 to last me 2 weeks until I get paid, and, like, I gotta eat. I ain't eaten yet. You know what I mean? It's like, how am I gonna? What money? I don't think I was drinking because I couldn't afford it. I mean, of course, there's cheap ways of getting. I get that, but it's like part of me is like, I wasn't like a heroin addict will find a way to buy heroin. You know what I mean? So I mean, if I was that adventurous, I could find a way to travel. You know what I mean? But growing up, I never had those opportunities. Like, oh man, you're like, I never even been to San Francisco, and I lived in California. You know what I mean? Like, I lived in SoCal. Like, I never even drove 8 hours. You know, the only pastime I had that was besides martial arts was snowboarding. I was snowboarding, so I'd save money all year to buy a season pass for $400, and I would go. And every chance I had, me and my buddies would split gas, and we'd drive up to Big Bear and go snowboarding all day. But then, I mean, I was working 3 jobs. I was working as a procurement guy. I was doing partial construction. I can't fix anything, but I could hand you a tool to fix it. And I was that guy. I was the gopher. They called me a gopher. Go for this, go for that. They called it a gopher. And I would do that, and I would teach martial arts. And like I would wake up at 3 a.m., go on site at 4 a.m., work the procurement job until noon or 1. I would go home, take a small nap. I would maybe do the construction job for 3 or 4 hours, and I'd be at the academy at 5 p.m., 6 p.m. doing kids class, adult classes, and then if there's fighters that do fight training, I'd get home around 11, have some food. I wake up at 3 a.m. It's like I didn't have time to travel. And when you have 3 jobs or 2 jobs for sure, you know, one's kind of like 2.5 jobs. It's like you got a holiday, yeah. You got a holiday from 2 jobs, you know, not really. You know what I mean? It's you're moonlighting a second job to help make money. You know, my mom was sick at the time, you know, and so like I'm paying for her medical bills and that kind of thing. It's like it's traveling. What do you mean traveling?
Yeah,
you know, and traveling here is a lot different than there. You know, like you jump in a car and go to Vegas. That's good. You know, I go to competitions and stuff like that, but there's a lot of it where I didn't have the time or availability to go. Yeah. And fear, you know, I can't take a week off or 2 weeks off, you know, because like I don't have any money. I don't have any money to go anywhere. First off, and then like I can't lose income either. So it's like I got to get back on time. So it's like because I would also nickel and dime it. Like I would take a Saturday off because I go to competition. You know, 5 competitions, that's a week. You know what I mean? Like you know, you took one day here and there. You know, so I don't know. It was very hard for me. Like I met somebody here recently, and then I don't know, Singapore. Maybe they live at home with their parents. I don't know. It's a local, and she's just like, yeah, I think I'm gonna quit my job and travel. How? You know what I mean? Like you must have some money saved, right? Yeah.
Just gonna do it.
Yeah, good luck with that.
But you can bootstrap it, but like, yeah, you've got responsibilities as well.
Yeah, and I had responsibilities early, you know. So
I reckon you would love it, like if you just saved up a bit and just took that extra time. Like whenever
I have the availability now.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about now. Like
this is the first time I've worked one job in my entire life.
Yeah. But take advantage of where you are. Like that's what I mean now. Like next time that like you get to go somewhere for a comp. Like, say, like, I want to take an extra 3 days off or an extra week and then just go, like...
Well, that's why I was able to experience Japan a little bit. I've been to Melbourne before. I think that when I went to Melbourne, I took an extra week.
Okay, cool.
You know what I mean? I've done little things like that, but still, like, for now, most of my time there has been, like, let me see there.
Yeah.
Like, I remember we had, me and my girlfriend, we woke up, the competition's over, we're there for, like, an extra 4 days past the comp. So we woke up one morning. We love oysters, so we would like go to, and oysters are huge in Melbourne, and we'd go somewhere. You get oysters for breakfast. You know, it's every meal of the day. We'd have a drink, like alcoholic drink, beer, cocktail, whatever. We'd have a beer, round of oysters, check. Beer,
next
round
one.
of oysters, check. We went to like 7 bars in like 5 hours, just like. Round of drinks, oysters, next bar. You know what I mean? And that was fun, just to experience Melbourne. Just go street to street, walk around, see some cool stuff. Bumped into some crazy. We found some crazy hip hop like street clothing wear that was on. We took a picture of something, and after we took a picture of it, we're like, man, there's a lot of people taking a picture of this street art. It's like this famous painted face in an alleyway that's right next to this hip hop street clothing brand store. Come to find out, like the street itself has like 5 million followers on Instagram. It's like this.
Yeah, it's a small alley in Melbourne, just off. near Little Collins Street.
Yeah,
or
it's on the
something.
main drag.
Yeah.
I had no idea, but we had just stumbled upon it. We had no intention of going there.
And
People
that's
go to
cool,
Melbourne
right?
to see that.
Yeah, but it's
I
so
stumbled
nice to
upon it.
discover it yourself.
Oh, totally. And so I did see that. You know, I remember when me and Steve, my very first trip to Japan, we stayed in Shibuya.
Uh-huh.
So I got to see the famous Shibuya crossing, and I got to see some cool stuff. I remember the night we landed, we were jet lagged or whatever. So let's walk. So we walked from Shibuya to Roppongi. And I don't know if you know the distance of that. And so we walked from Shibuya to Roppongi, and we walked back.
Yeah.
And so I nerded out because we walked by the Takati store, and I love sport bikes. I had a sport bike back home. We walked by some other stores. I'm like, oh, this is freaking amazing. And we get into Roppongi, and there's all these African guys selling these like Japanese hookers out of these like karaoke bars and something like that, right? And we're like, this, and I'm telling, like, Steve's, you know, he's kind of like that white guy who grew up in Asia from a decent family kind of thing, and I'm like, and Steve's like, oh, this looks cool. I'm like, no, like, we need to keep walking straight because like we don't want these. This is better. Let's not go. I'm not going inside.
It's
there,
not a
you know?
karaoke. They're not singing karaoke. in
Yeah,
the karaoke bar.
Yeah. And Steve's not that ignorant. I'm exaggerating the sense, but it was a little bit this. So we look around Roppongi a little bit, and we eventually let's go home. So we no taxi, let's walk home. And I remember Steve had one of those like it was me or Steve. One of us had one of those like Apple Watches or Fitbit things on. We walked like 23 kilometers round trip. And I'm like, holy cow. Like, you know, like that was a fun.
Yeah, and that's cool. Like, and it's like people go to Roppongi, people go to Shibuya, but like in between those two things, you see like quaint little streets that like probably tourists aren't walking down, and you feel like a little bit more. This is where people live, or people how people live, and
so
I think
most of my initial traveling has been like, and that was a funny thing because I'm with some people and they've been to that something. So like if you and I went somewhere, you may not. I mean, let's just say for example, you would, but you may not appreciate our hotels in Shibuya. Let's enjoy in Shibuya. No, I've been here before. Let's take a train and go to Hokkaido. Well, I've never been here. Like, why can't I just be here and experience here? If we go to Shibuya again, by all means, let's jump on a train and go somewhere else. And then when we land to that, like, it's funny because people are like, oh, let's take a train here and then go there and then go there. If we have a goal of going to somewhere, I totally get that. But I've never been here, so let me see here. So, like...
And then I'll go over there.
Then I'll like, okay, now let's venture out, you know. And I almost like I would do like when I would walk around Japan or some of these other places, I usually do a spiral. I would kind of like leave my hotel and kind of go one block out, then 2 blocks out, and then I kind of make my way back home. Like, let me look around and
that's like when you're a kid and they take the training wheels off your bike.
Yes.
And you say, and then the next week you go to the next street.
Yes, yeah. Well, I remember giving that analogy once to the students. You know, you learn to move like a Kimura. Kimura's like home, like your house. You know, you stay around the Kimura. You know what I mean? You know, like you don't just go to New York City at 5 years old. You know what I mean? You kind of stay at Kimura. You know, and like just like your mom, like you can play to the end of the driveway.
End of the street, yeah.
Now you go to the end of the street. Now, like at some point, we've all experienced. You know, walking away, just walking with our mom or dad, or whatever, and we walked only far enough where they can hold our arm. And now they're not holding our arm; we can walk as far as they can see us. Now we can walk as far as like the edge of the house, like the property of our home. Then we can play on the street we live on, you know. But there's everyone's experience. At one point, you've rounded that corner, and it's the first time you can't see your house. You know what I mean? It's like it's the sense of freedom that slowly over time builds. You know, and so I kind of treat that when I travel. I'm like, all right, like there's my hotel. I'm like, can I still see it? Okay, all right. Let me walk a little farther. Can I still see my hotel? Like, I
want to go around that corner, but tomorrow. That's tomorrow.
Yeah, like you know, because I do want to kind of enjoy where I'm at. You know, and I'll Google where I am, and if where I am is very boring, then maybe I'll venture out a little bit. But like when I was in Abu Dhabi, I didn't go rent a truck and go dune buggy hopping, and I haven't done that yet. Next time I go, I'd love to. Yeah, let's jump in a truck and go see Abu Dhabi. No, and then I'm with somebody like me, and like no, let's just see Abu Dhabi. You know, like no,
I want to see my hotel.
There's nothing here. We gotta go to the dunes, man. We gotta go. You know, but travel's been fun. You know, it's definitely like good. You know, COVID hit just.
Yeah, it changes it all.
Well, that was another thing too. Like I was enjoying like when I first moved here, getting to know students, seeing Singapore, like, let me see where I live, and go to bars and drinking and go see this and go see that, and just burn money. And I got that out of my system. Now I want to save some money, do the more adult thing, but now I have some money. I want to get a plane ticket and go to Bali on a proper 4-day holiday.
Yeah.
COVID.
Don't do jiu-jitsu.
COVID right in your face. Like, fuck, man, I guess I can't go anywhere now. What am I supposed to do? That's
soon, man. Soon it'll open up. And soon
I
you'll
hope,
be able to.
But I get people I had parents ask me, hey, can you go home for Christmas? No. I'm an employment pass holder. I'm an EP.
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
leaving this
dodgy
country.
to leave.
Yeah.
You might not get back in.
Why not? I'm like, I can't go to the bar with more than 2 people. You want me to leave the country and hope to come back? That's dangerous to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking to go anywhere until maybe next year sometime.
Same. Yeah. I want to know I can come back in without failure, because I can't afford to be not here and have to pay accommodation somewhere else.
Well, my thing would be company related, because most of my trips thus far have been business related. So the business gets my ticket, gets all the things. I just keep my receipts. They reimburse me for whatever rules I allow, to get my money back. But I just know if they send me, okay, Robyn, you're gonna go to Japan again. You're going to Shanghai for a competition with the team. Like, oh, cool. If something were to happen and I'm out for a month because I can't get back because of COVID.
Yeah.
It's not my dime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not to say it. It's just, it's more of a safety blanket of I would hate to be unemployed because you chose to go back to America and you can't get back in. So
but if they sent you there, then
it's like, yeah, you kind
of
of exactly, yeah. Like, it's, I'm not trying to abuse it, but it's part of me. It's like,
and then they check your Instagram and you're on the Great Wall of China,
yeah.
other side of the country.
Well, I'm gonna enjoy it while I'm out, which is sad because the more people travel and they come back, they're like, this is the only country with the rules. I mean, people are coming back from Germany. Like someone mentioned, the only thing in Germany was I think it was Germany, is masks indoors. That's it.
Okay.
In America, they don't even talk about COVID anymore. No one talks about COVID. They talk about COVID about how crazy it was.
It's normal now.
Yeah, well, it's not even is anymore. It's not even like it's like somewhat gone. You see it in the news, like,
Yeah, right. Well, I hope that comes here soon. Man, do you know how long we've been going?
2 hours, 20 minutes.
2 hours, 20 minutes.
Dang, it flies by.
I didn't realize.
We got off on all the odd topics.
We did. We should have. We might have to cut it, man. It's late here.
Yeah, no worries. That's cool with me.
Yeah.
I'm not far, so we can do it again.
We'll do it again
anytime.
sometime.
Yeah, we could duct tape it to the other one and make one big.
We'll give you more water and a Pokeball.
yeah.
The perks.
Yeah, the perks, man. Yeah, it was nice.
Cool. All right, man. Thanks for coming.
I had fun.
We'll do it again.
It was good, for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice one.
For sure.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. Thank you.